I would like to ask for one slight change to the agenda. Under new business, item number 1, I'd like to add a discussion of air conditioning out at the airport and the Civil Air Patrol, please. We have some information for us.
Under new business?
I'd like for it to be number 1 under new business. So we'll just go ahead and get out of the way, it won't take long.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. Any other changes to the agenda? Okay. I make a motion to approve the agenda then as modified.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. First item would be to approve the minutes. Does anybody have any correction to any of the minutes?
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes as written.
Okay, I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
And Cindy, if you will give us a financial report, please.
This is the financial report for May 31st. All of the departments should have been at 41.66% used of their budget. We did have a few that were a little bit over that. The commissioner's office is over. It's at 48.15%. The elections is over. It's at 140.82, but it's because of the election that we had for the Board of Education. We will be reimbursed for that. Tax assessor's office is at 55.86%. Voter registrar is at 50.17%. Maintenance shop is at 43.06%. The sheriff's department is at 52.15%. Detention center is at 42.99%. District attorney is at 43.79%. Courthouse maintenance is at 48.32%. Fire and rescue is at 42.06%. DFACS, our contribution to them is 1 month ahead, so it is at 50%. And Limestone Valley RC&D, we make one contribution to them a year, and we have made that contribution, and it is at 100%. The amount of revenue received through May 31st was $5,790,876, and the amount of expenditures through May 31st is $7,843,161.
Okay, does anyone have any questions on the financial report?
I'd like to point out there's quite a few departments that have revenue that are increases and above their forecast, and that's good news.
It is.
Some of them are bigger than others, but fire and rescue is ahead of schedule, and the mobile home and vehicle taxes is ahead. So there's several that revenue-wise that are ahead, not just worried about expenses again. But
Hope that's a true.
Me too.
Thank you, Sam. As first item of new business, I'm going to ask Don Murray from the Civil Air Patrol to come speak with us. The Civil Air Patrol has very graciously raised some money for some much needed air conditioning out at the airport.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners.
Before you start, Don, I have to apologize to Jim. You're going to be caught cold by this because I didn't get a chance to talk to you, so I'm sorry.
I'm not completely cold.
No, he's not.
All right.
We try to keep Mr. Smith in the loop as much as we can.
That helps me out.
For the past almost 5 years, the Civil Air Patrol has been privileged to use the facility, the upstairs facility, at the airport, when we moved in, we knew there was no air conditioning, no plumbing, basic electrical service. And so we've made, over the years, a number of improvements. We have also held fundraisers over the years and finally acquired enough funding to pay for the installation of a real air conditioning system at the building in the upstairs unit. The funds, this is all from contributions, donations, and private funding. The total bill is going to be about $11,345. It's going to take us between 3 and 4 weeks to have the installation done. We are going to use a local contractor, and Tuesday evening at a finance meeting of the Georgia Wing Finance Committee, it was approved to allow us to proceed with that pending approval of the Gilmer County Board of Commissioners. Over the weekend, we were getting documents together, and while I do not have all the specifications, and those will be handled directly with Mr. Smith at the airport about placement and service requirements and that kind of thing. We understood late that the Georgia Wing of the Civil Air Patrol Finance Committee was meeting Tuesday. We thought it was further down the road. So we put together a package. I sent Commission Chairman Jim Smith and the Airport Advisory Board a complete package. It turned out to be about 48 pages of somewhat very intense reading on specifications and, of course, the bid itself. Met Mr. Lehman, the chairman of the Airport Advisory Board, Monday morning, and he had been able to discuss this with all but one member. That would have been 4 members. He had the discussion with between the time he and I talked and Monday morning, and he had 4 yes votes out of 5 board members. So we're asking the County Commission this evening to allow us to proceed with securing our contract with the supplier, working out the details with Mr. Smith, and moving forward and making that place a comfort zone, hopefully.
Any questions on that?
Yeah, I have a couple.
Okay.
Okay. Come to the podium. Now, I know, excuse me, Mr. First of all, the most support possibly I could ever give the Civil Air Patrol. I would do anything to support them, but as a citizen in the airport and the upstairs that I'm aware of, am I hearing this correct, that this has become something that's happened pretty quickly and something you need to move on, and you have a 48-page document in hand right now? I mean, there's an $11,000 investment into the airport, which is a possible upstairs revenue source to the citizens of Gilmer County. I don't know the current arrangement with the Civil Air Patrol, and I'll say publicly, I support the Civil Air Patrol using the upstairs. But if it's moving forward with an air conditioning unit, and actually that, is that going to, you already got the paperwork, will that be the property of the county, or it belong to the county? I mean, have you looked at this information long enough and clear enough to understand all the details? This is added to the agenda, and I'm not for sure if it was not, see, this is not published. Am I correct? It's not published. It's been added.
This is not published.
Right, so this has not even been published, so I mean, it's just something that's been added to the agenda, and it's a pretty big deal in a lot of ways. But I don't want to miss their
Well-
deadline. I mean, that's up to you. You guys are the,
There is, as far as I know, no particular deadline. I mean, this is not one of those,
right.
gotta get it done right away deals.
No, not
We
get
would
it
like
done,
to
but
get
if
it
you,
done because of the
if you vote
conference.
tonight, you're
Yeah.
moving forward with
Right.
the air conditioning system that the Civil Air Patrol is putting in.
Right, that is correct.
Right. And have you thoroughly looked at all the documentation on that? All the three of you? Because, that's right. You thoroughly
I
don't
don't know
know.
that Dallas and Travis even know about this because I can't talk to them.
So it's a 48-page document, I don't know if that's to you or the county, and it's $11,000 investment in a county property, that I don't know if you have a lease. Now, I hope you're understanding, I support Civil Air Patrol. I mean, I know most of the kids love them, I've gone to every event they have, they're opposed to anything I can find for them. I'm just separating Civil Air Patrol with somebody using the airport and making $11,000.
We don't really have a lease with them. We've always just allowed them to use that space.
And I say it publicly, I support that. It's the county's
Yeah.
airport, the upstairs was intended to be leased one day, so it's not bringing in any revenue.
Right.
They're not bringing in any revenue. It's generous, I think it's a great idea that they put air conditioning in it until the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. And what happens if somebody does come in and say, hey, I'd like to put a burger stand upstairs, the dream that possibly could happen in that airport one day that we've talked about over and over, or do something with the upstairs, and now you have a revenue source. You tell these people 3 months later, well, we really don't have anything in stone, but we have $1,100 a month the citizens can get. So just hasn't been advertised, added to the agenda.
Well, it was added to the agenda. I kind of felt like since there's no county money involved, that it was something that we could probably add to the agenda. I don't have a problem with waiting until next month. I just, it's July and these guys are in bad shape here.
I just don't know. I don't know the details of if they put $11,000 AC unit in, is it going to be? And I'm sure Mr. Smith will, because he's very thorough on these things. But is it going to be commercially to the point to where the next tenant or a future tenant, it would all fit their needs? I mean, just whatever. It's something none of you have read the information on, correct? Except for maybe
Except for me.
And it's kind of okay. All right.
Okay, any other
Well,
questions?
in answer to part of Brian's question, this didn't come up overnight. We've been working towards this goal now for over 4 years. Coming up with those kinds of funds and operating the way we operate is not easy to do. I know there may be some unanswered questions, but this is a commercial unit. This is not a residential unit. And there are limitations on that facility as far as ductwork, as far as available electrical service. And actually, Mr. Pritchett, we took that facility, it was a dusty hole that had nothing to offer except it was a space we needed for a small group of people that's grown from about 15 a few years ago. We're now 61 members.
Well, considering you said my name, I respect Civil Air Patrol. But the county citizens pay a bond payment, correct, for the airport. Do we not pay a payment out there on the airport or something? Don't we pay something out there? Or is it
I'm sure it's included in there.
Huh?
somewhere. I'm sure it's
Yeah,
included in there somewhere.
exactly. So if somebody comes about and wants to relieve the citizens of about $1,000 a month and want the upstairs of the airport, one of these great days, if it could ever happen, I don't want these people upset when you say, as a commission or whoever says, hey, we would like to, you got to move out. So I can't reiterate enough in public. I love the Civil Air Patrol. I think it's first class, but that's not the issue we're discussing right now. Okay, that's not what we're discussing. And I respect that they rake the money up.
Don, what are
We
y'all-
understand that possibility. We do.
What are y'all's expectations? Well, you say you understand the possibilities, so.
There's a possibility that after the other improvements plus this one we've already made there, if the economy makes a change and we get some further improvements at the airport, it could happen, a tenant could come in.
I don't think it's a probability, but I do think it's a possibility. And as long as y'all are okay with that, I don't see the problem myself.
Wherever we hang our hat, we're gonna be depending on the community.
Yeah.
We really are. We know that. We're not in a position to own or even rent a building.
And in the absence of somebody coming in and wanting to pay some big bucks for that space, of course, I'm personally very supportive of having civil air patrol there. I think it's a perfect place for them. And I gotta say too, that the idea of getting the place air conditioned at no cost to the county appeals to me. So that's just kind of where I'm coming from.
The 48-page document, is that technical specifications for the equipment? Is that primarily what's in that document?
It is technical specifications for the equipment. It is an installer's guide and a user's guide. I have a request in now for more information from that the contractors will be using for placement and that stuff that I need to work with Mr. Smith on.
But none of it has to do with the use of the space or an ongoing relationship between, that's not part of the document, right? It's
No.
just specs about the system.
This is all from the manufacturer.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to suggest, well, I want to make a comment first, and you're welcome to stay or not, that's up to you, Don, but I'm going to give a short testimony of the Civil Air Patrol, because it was the day that we lost an airplane several years ago here in the county that I was actually working at the airport and saw that airplane leave, thinking nothing about it until someone came by and said, have they come back? And we finally found out they weren't coming back. But I want to give a quick testimony. The Civil Air Patrol people who were there and would not go away and would not give up until they found either the survivors or the remains of that aircraft and the people on it. And they did above and beyond, and I saw them cry with the relatives. I saw them chew out the TV and folks who were trying to fly a helicopter over that place and disturb the peace of those family members. And I saw them take control, and I saw them do a job that nobody else could have done. And the Civil Air Patrol needs to be there at our airport. Nobody, I don't think, would disagree with that. But I would suggest, if I may, I don't know if I need to make this a motion, but I would like to have our advisory board, airport advisory board, make an official request to us. The same request you made, exactly. And provide that to us. They'll be meeting the first week in August. I don't mean to delay it, but I would like to have that for our meeting, and we will make it official. I do understand Brian's concern that it is a short time, no announcement situation, and that's not fair to the citizens to have things brought up unless it's an emergency. And I don't perceive it as an emergency, except I know how hot it is up there. I've been up there. That would be my suggestion or motion, that we proceed that way and put it on our agenda for next month, if that works.
And we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Yes, second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm gonna vote no, but go ahead. All right. First thing we have is zoning for James Johnson, R1 residential low density to A1 agricultural. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to this particular zoning? You would like, yes, come up and speak, please.
My name is Mark Cochran.
Cochran, and I did not make the planning and zoning appointment on June the 18th, where I was out of town, couldn't attend. So I'm here today for this meeting. I own the land that's directly next door to this gentleman. I don't know who he is out here. If he's here at all. But what I'm understanding is it's going from residential to agricultural. That's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Residential and hobby farming, I believe.
Now, you're gonna have to help me out just a little bit here, because I don't know what that means. When you say agriculture, I think of corn, beans, crops, I think of animals.
A1 agricultural, and Shannon, keep me honest here, would mean any farming activity at all.
Okay.
It would be anything shopping, things of livestock.
Right.
Okay.
Like poultry houses, that's one of the require 20 acre minimum.
All right, so we're talking about farm, let's get to more my point then. We're talking about farm animals, right?
Yes, sir.
That's any kind of farm animal.
Currently, yes, sir.
Any hogs,
Unless we restrict that, yes.
hogs,
I mean, A1 with no restriction would include hogs.
okay? And that, once you pass this, if you pass this, this right here will be pretty much a done deal, right?
Yes, sir.
And if he sells this land, what will be zoned then?
A1. It's
Ain't
passed.
going anywhere, is it?
No, sir.
Can I see the hands of anybody here that like to live next to hogs? Got one. The reason I bring this to the point is not to try to be a bad man or anything like that, is I'm referring to a personal issue. And when you pull in your driveway, the man's got 5 hogs right next to your driveway, and you deal with that day in and day out. It's not it isn't right. It just isn't right. And I have that concern, and that's why I'm here today.
What if hogs were not an issue?
All right, let's back it up just a little bit. I work a lot at Kusawati River Resort, and I don't even know the name of the ladies' facility out there. The farm out there, you know what I'm talking about?
The rescue?
Rescue.
I don't know that.
I can't know the name of it either. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Well, we're building a brand new home. And from the time the sun shines, from the time the sun comes up till it goes down, and that's about how long I'm there, I hear donkeys, I hear it all. And I'm sitting on that front porch and I'm thinking, and I know we live in the country, don't get me wrong, I got all that, I understand that. But you couldn't give me the house. I wouldn't live there because it's unreal. It doesn't go away. So, again, I'm not trying to be a bad man. I'm just trying to voice my humble opinion as to why I'm here, why my concerns are what they are.
Yes, sir.
Taxes are high. Mine are. I don't know about anybody else's. Mine's high. And I hope they don't get much higher, but they are what they are. And I think when I pay those taxes that I have some entitlements and have a say, and I appreciate everybody in this room and everybody in this nation for allowing me to be here to voice my opinion. And that comes from the heart. I mean that. But at the same time is our nation just got through passing a law, and I won't get into it, what it is, y'all know what it is, maybe, but you're trying to make me live the way that you want me to live. Well, I try real hard within myself to try to not bother nobody and live to where I don't affect nobody in any way. And then when somebody comes in and says, well, I've got the right here that says that I can do this, and you're gonna have to deal with me. Because I got a piece of paper here that says that you have to. Well, again, I have a problem with that.
Okay, well, I can understand that. We should probably, I guess, get right to the specifics, because I believe what they had indicated on the application was that they just wanted to have a place to have a few horses and maybe some cows.
Personal residence here, they might possibly have some small animals, horse or
Well, on the application, it says, somewhere here.
Well, could I say one more
Have,
thing?
horses or a few cows. So let's talk about that specifically.
I'll say one more thing.
Yes, sir.
My land, this land is gonna be deeded to my daughter. She's 14. I don't know how old this man is, but how long she plan on living?
I don't know either one of those.
Okay. The point I'm trying to make is let's just go to the longevity of life. Is to say is I'm not really concerned so much about now is tomorrow too. Because you're telling me, you just got through saying it, once it's done, it's done. And I know how hard to get something is to make it be retroactive and go back.
Right.
That's a tough pill to sell, and I know that.
I'm not a big fan of conditional zoning. We can do that and say it can only be horses and cows, but I'm not a big fan of that. I think that we ought to, if we feel like it ought to be, A1, we make it A1, or if not, we leave it R1.
I don't, the man can do whatever he wants to out there, in my opinion. But when you start bothering people, then I don't have no say. You've signed it, it's been done, I have got no say. Right?
Well, you do have a say, and you're having it now, but you are correct that if this is approved, then that's the end of it.
I can't go back and say,
Right,
hey, Mr. Chairman, the man's got hogs out here, I don't like them.
right.
You know, what are you gonna say? Sorry, Mark.
You're right.
Well, I'll just bring them to your house then. You deal with them. You the one that signed it, you deal with them. You deal with the hogs and dogs and chickens and,
Now,
And
we were going pretty good there when we started getting ugly about it.
I don't mean to be, I'm sorry. I just, it's just, it worries me, and that's why I'm here. That's all.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak to this? Okay, any comments from? Well, I guess I'll just jump right out there, then. I understand how important agriculture is to Gilmer County. I know a lot of people don't think that I do, but honestly I do. I do believe, though, that if a person buys property that's zoned R1 and the surrounding property is zoned R1, that they have a reasonable expectation that they will be living in residentially zoned area. And without some compelling argument to the contrary, which I don't see here myself, my inclination would be to say that I think that this property should remain R1. And that effectively put it over to y'all.
Can I ask the person, where'd you go? Where is your residence?
It's actually not a residence, it's not a
It's a
property.
Just property, I apologize.
It's property, but there is gonna be a home there. We gotta let me live on there, there's gonna be a home there.
Understand, I just wanted to see where you were specifically.
Facing the property, there's to the left.
Okay. I understand that if we say something is agriculture, that means a lot of things. We know that all too well. There's a lot of things that we consider agricultural activities. And I don't particularly have a problem with this property itself and the intended use, but it is an intended use that I'm basing that on, and I'm not in favor, just as you, Charlie, of putting restrictions. I get tired of having to specify sizes of animals and how many and what species, et cetera. That's just not something we ought to be doing. But I do think what the intent and what the stated reasons for using this property, I think falls within what it should. But I do acknowledge the fact that we don't have total control over that, and that's private property, that he can't do some things other neighbors may not approve or appreciate. But I think in terms of him being able to use the property, I think the agriculture, in my mind, would be best. But you, I think, made that a formal motion to deny it, probably, did you?
I wasn't in form of a motion yet.
Okay.
Just throwing it out there, but I'll be happy to make it. in form of a
Okay.
motion.
Okay.
That for me.
At the hearing, were there other objections? What was the feeling of your board?
That's the first complaint I've heard since, well, that's the only complaint I've heard, and, planning commission voted unanimously to approve
Without restrictions.
as is.
I have a hard time going against the planning commission that's done their homework and had the public hearing according to schedule. And we live in a rural area. I understand the man's desire to have a few animals around his home. I see his request as being valid.
And it is very true that there is no intensive operations allowed.
No, it being.
That I think you need to be clear on, make sure you know and understand that this is not, you cannot have on this size property, large scale, intensive farming activities,
You got to be 20 acres.
at least 20 acres. So that rules out a lot of things that could potentially happen.
So, do we have a motion?
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve it to rezone from R1 to A1.
And I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
No. Okay, James H. Edwards, A1 agricultural to R1 residential low density. Is there anyone here to speak to this particular rezone? Okay, with no one to speak against it, I would make a motion that it be approved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carolina Christian Church, A1 agricultural to R1 residential low density. Is there anyone here to speak to this rezoning? Okay, without any objection then, I'll make a motion that we approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
RC Dean Jr. and Patricia Dean, R1 residential low density to R1 residential low density with conditional use. And I believe the conditional use in this case is that they would like to fence in a pasture area and have a couple of horses. Is there anyone here to speak to this particular zone? Yes. Yes, please.
So,
My name is Jackie Garner. I live in at 571 Chimper Pen, which is right across from the property that's being proposed here. It's speaking to you on the phone. I did attend a planning and zoning meeting along with one of my neighbors and spoke for a couple of my other neighbors. We asked that it not be done because we are kind of a small neighborhood of all residential houses. And I did find this handout I just gave you on the Gilmer County land use plan. And you can see that some of this, I think, you know, this is a macro plan. I mean, large plans are made up of small parts. And even though we're a small neighborhood, we're part of a larger group. And I think if you approve this, you're setting a policy for future land use. And I think the first gentleman that spoke, really, a lot of his points really pertain to our points also. You're putting horses right in the middle of in a geographical center of a residential neighborhood. So having said that, I just ask that y'all do not approve it based on my neighbors and myself. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir.
All right?
Shannon, did you review the hobby farm regulations on an R1 property for us?
Yeah, it's,
Come up and I got questions.
Can I make
Well,
one
wait.
comment? Can I make one comment? The gentleman said there's no horse farming, no farms out there. There is one horse farm on Chinky Pen already.
Thank you. Well, let's let Shannon answer the question, and y'all can certainly make your comments.
The hobby livestock basically says that you can have up to one 300-pound plus animal, two under 300 pounds, or, this is all or 20 chickens per acre.
And that's a minimum lot size of 2.5, if I recall.
No, usually we deduct the 3/4 for the home site, that's excluding the home site. So if you had 2 acres, you basically have 1 1/4 to base that number of animals on. I don't know, we've not run into an odd number like that in a while, but
But there's a minimum for hobby livestock, if I recall, it's minimum acreage or not.
there's those numbers based per acre.
Was there conditions put on this by the?
This, there was, the board voted to approve this, hobby livestock conditional use with the maximum, of 2 horses total, no other animals.
Is it correct that this is surrounded completely by residential?
Well, if you look at the zoning map right there at the back, yeah, it's zoned, mainly residential. The only exclusion to that would be what the gentleman just brought up, which is, John Holmes' property. It's noted as 176 on that zoning map.
Okay.
That's a residential property that was grandfathered in. I can't remember the acreage on there. It seems like he's got about 8 or 10 or something, but it is used for agricultural purposes. And then looking at that map, Randy's is at 386, and then he bought that big adjoining parcel too. That has been combined already and recorded, so he's got 8 acres total.
All right, Dallas, does that answer your question?
Yes.
So you want to make another comment?
Yes, sir. Mr. Holmes' property is,
Would you come here, please?
Speaking of Mr. Holmes' property, it was grandfathered in, it has been there a long time, and if you stand on Chinkopin Road, you cannot see his property at all. It is very well off the road down, he has a long dirt driveway. In the summertime, you can't even see his residence or his pasture or anything. And in wintertime, you can barely see it just because when the leaves fall off the trees, you can see through the trees. So Mr. Dean's property is right on the Chinkopin Road as we go around the big curve there. Mr. Holmes' property, like I say, is totally outside.
One, on that particular issue, though, I did drive out there after we had our conversation to take a look at it.
Yes.
And in driving out, I could, of course, his residence was clearly visible there near the street.
Mhm.
But it was so heavily wooded that even going around the corner and trying to look, I could not see anything beyond his residence at all.
True, but once this is done, I mean, he can clear cut that whole property if he wanted to, and then, you know, like, as the first gentleman said, we're stuck once it's done.
Well, I told y'all before to Charlie earlier in the meeting that the clear cutting has been brought up, and this has nothing to do with that. He can cut his timber if he wants to, and unless there was a.
Well, I think Mr. Connor's point, though, is that it's one thing for him to clear cut now, but another thing for him to clear cut and then have the view of the horses.
Right, I just want to make that,
Yeah.
separate the two.
But
If
you
he
do
wants to cut it
understand.
and make it into pasture, he can do that
Yeah,
all
yeah.
on his own.
You understand he can clear cut it anyway.
Oh, yes, sir, I understand
Right.
that. And then as you go around the curve, you'll see the first house with the keys and front, and mine was the last house.
Right.
So we're all facing that property. And anything that happens, we're looking right at it and smelling it.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes, sir.
Okay, Dean, appreciate you listening to us. I'm sorry, I've never met the gentleman that is complaining against us, so, I think he lives in the pretty yellow house. I'm not sure. But anyway, if you've been up our road, you know that I have a virtual forest in my front yard. That's because I'm basically antisocial. I don't want to see everybody else. Randy has to ask permission before he's allowed to cut trees. Okay? One of the reasons that we got the adjoining property is for insulation against anybody else. The other is, we have grandchildren now that we thought would be great if we had one or two horses to teach them to love and to take care of something. And also for us, it's just been a dream that we have horses. We recently retired, and that was just a dream of ours. It was not to piss anybody off. Okay? All right. If you will look at our property, we don't want to see everybody else's house. If we cut something down, it would be to clear out a small area so that something could walk through, and it might just be me that walks through it. We don't know where we're going from here. What we're doing is getting permission to be able to do it if we wanted to. If the woods are going to stay, if anything has to come in, those woods have been, I have been living in that house for 23 years, okay? Nothing has been done with that land except trees gone down on it or brush pushed on it, which is fine. That's not a problem. But nothing has been done with that land at all. That's the way we like it. The thing that would be done is there's trees from storms past. We might pull them out and cut them up for my daughter's firewood because her husband was killed 2.5 weeks ago. Now, these are the grandchildren we're talking about. I don't want to see these people's houses. I don't want to clear the land. And like I said, yes, we have tried to make some improvements, but it's improvements that have long been neglected for 25 years. Randy's lived there longer than I have. And nothing has been done with this land except trees falling down. There is nothing that is going to be done with this land that will be detrimental to anybody, because there's nobody that loves a forest or anything else that has to do with nature more than I do. So I'm sorry if we have interrupted anybody's nature scene. But, and the gentleman's here, I'm so sorry that we have upset you. This is not our intention at all. Our intention is to enhance our lives, not to bother anybody else.
There were really two reasons why we bought the property. Dr. Leffler, which many of you know, a real fine gentleman, had bought it to insulate himself. But after he had it a few years, he had listed the land right adjacent to us, coming around that curve. And we were kind of concerned that somebody would build it, and we could see houses and they could see us more. So that was one thing. The other thing was just to have a couple of horses just to babysit for grandkids. Between us, we got 7 grandkids and 1 great-grandchild. So we just wanted to do that. But had the gentleman talk with me, just come to me and said, hey, what are you planning on doing? I would carry him down there and show him. We're not going to cut a bunch of trees. I mean, enough to have a fence or any part of it, but I'm not going to clear cut the land. As Shannon said, I could do that if I wanted to. I don't have any desire to. That's the last thing we want to do. We just want to, in fact, we had a fence about 30 years ago, because I've been in that same location for 31 years. And there wasn't all this rigmarole that took to build a fence. So we built a small barn just over the and a small fence. We had a couple of horses back then. And when my children got old enough, we sold the horses. And our fence has been going down. But basically, the fence itself that we would put up would not be any closer than 50 to 80, maybe 100 feet from the road. And we would not clear cut inside of that. There's only 2 lands it touches. One's Gene Jones, and I talked with Gene, and Gene said he was fine. And the other is Dr. Leffler. And I talked to him before we bought the land, and what we wanted to do. And one of the reasons I wanted the whole thing is there's a little spring on the back of it. And that would allow us to take care of the fence down there. But there's nothing on the back that's touching anybody, no houses. There will not be anybody that will see a fence unless it's right up next to our house, if we build one right next to the house. But we don't plan to do a lot of that. We're not going to take down a bunch of trees. So we'd really appreciate if we could use a part of our 8 acres to get a couple of horses. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Well, as I said, I drove out there, and I made the rounds around there and looked from the side to front. And without absolutely clear cutting this property, I'm convinced that nobody would be able to see that there's fence or horses back there. It's just that heavily wooded, all in the community. So personally, I would be okay with it.
Second form of the motion.
Well, I'll make it in the form of a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Aaron and Joshua Lowe, R1 residential low density to R1 residential low density with conditional use. Is there anyone here to speak to this particular rezoning? Okay, in the absence of any objections, I would make a motion that it be approved. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Larry D. Walker, R1 residential low density to R1 residential low density with conditional use. Is there anyone here to speak to this particular rezone? So in the absence of that, I make a motion that he approves.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I should mention here too that when nobody's here to speak against these and I make the motion for approval, I'm doing it based on the assumption that the Planning and Zoning Commission has already approved it, so if nobody's objecting to it, certainly we should accept their recommendation. So I'm not just arbitrarily making motions to approve. George Stembridge, A1 to C1 commercial. Is there anyone here to speak to that specifically? In the absence of that, I make a motion for approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
William A. Henderson, C1 commercial to R1 residential low density. Is there anyone here to speak to this particular rezoning? If not, I make a motion for approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
David A. Neely, R1 residential low density to A1 agricultural.
Did he get the plat?
Did he get the plan? Okay, so
Remand it. So I move that we remand it back to planning zones.
Second.
all in favor? Aye. RFF Investments, A1 agricultural to A1 agricultural with conditional use. Do I have to ask? Anyone here to make comments? Yes, sir.
I'm sure you guys recall what I said earlier this afternoon. I just want to add to that based on the comments from the business and the property owner. With regards to the sound, just like you commented on that the fireworks every week would be a nuisance. That's pretty much how we feel about listening to the music. You know, like I talked about this afternoon, sitting on my front porch or my back deck, and I've got to listen to somebody else's music. And to be honest, it's not the same every time. And that's why I may not hear it as loud as somebody else on the other side. And I assume it's because inside their barn, they're changing things, got a different layout for whoever's event going on. And the directional applies. Just like if I turn around and speak out here, you're not going to hear it as good as when I'm facing you. And so that's the difference that I bring to the attention, as they commented that other people had not heard it. And I had people call me when they were going on, and I didn't hear it as loud as previous times. And I think we've all tried to be very tolerant of this, so we didn't disturb these people's events or cause a problem while they were occurring in lieu of these proceedings. And I think based on moving forward and it being approved, I think the tolerance level is going to change. And the complaints on behalf of neighbors and the surrounding people are going to change. I think there was they spoke about the adjacent communities and those people. A lot of those people are in opposition. They're afraid to come forward because of all the rumors of the drastic things that might be worse. Pig farm, chicken farm, whatever the case. Bob Mosley talked about housing. I think that they already looked at doing that a long time ago when they couldn't, because there was an issue with putting in septic tanks there. As I understand it, there's similar issues with putting in a pig farm, with close bodies of water and things like that. So it's quite irritating to have those rumors floating around and causing unrest with people, and they don't understand, you know, they're basically misinformed, or they don't understand, you know, what's happening and things like that, and they choose to be opposed, but not necessarily show their opposition here. And there's quite a few. I think everyone, nearly everyone in Canoe House is opposed. Even, I think there is some in our letters that we gave you today. So I just reiterate those facts, and I hope that you take them into consideration.
Anyone else?
I'm gonna go read it. I just
I
want to say.
you gotta come to the podium.
Okay. Embarrass me. Just want to say that we would like to reaffirm our comments that were so eloquently and melodiously delivered earlier this afternoon. We hope to think about them seriously in the cause of the year.
Okay, anyone else?
I'm Cherry Davenport, one of the 4 partners of Deep South Farm. I'm sorry I couldn't make the event earlier today. Mr. Jordan, I completely agree about being irritated about misinformed people, that there are a lot of rumors that have been flying around, untruths, inaccurate reflection of facts. I have personally stood at this very podium. This is my 3rd time. I think that we've answered your questions with all honesty. We have hosted 4 events. And as far as you being able to hear from your porch what's going on down there, every event I have stood, not only on my back porch or my bridal cabin, which is what is just adjacent from you, but in the front yard and videotape, should the commission need to hear and or see that. You can't hear it from that area. That is a fact. As far as the filter of information that I so eloquently get from my sisters in crime, so to speak, about the devastation of livestock, I just don't even want to address that. I live on a working farm. We have 20 head of cow on my farm, 70 free-range chickens. I have 3 goats, 2 dogs, 3 horses. I'm bottle feeding a calf, and at the very top of the mountain that I live at, that's my property, there's a helipad. A man came in and bought the property just adjacent from our property line. And we're okay with that because we're on 150 acres, Mr. Reese. He has a helipad, and that helicopter flies in and doesn't do anything to my cows at all. It freaks my kids out, but not my cows. I don't mean to sound rude, but we've been slammed in the media. We've been, as far as not interacting or that everybody's opinion is going to change and you're not going to be as tolerant. Mr. Jordan, you pace my front yard every time I have an event. You've handed out flyers to people actually leaving my events, and I think that's rude. I've stood here and I've listened and I've been apologetic. Honestly, we want to work cohesively with the environment and the neighborhoods we're around. As far as Canoe House goes, I just would like to let everybody know that we were blessed enough to be able to serve one of the members that owns a house in Canoe House just on the Friday before the holiday weekend. We actually did a celebration of life. That would be in lieu of a funeral for this gentleman's father. If you'd like to see it, it's on all of our media. You can see the pictures and the things that we did for them. I don't know what else that I can stand up here and say other than the fact is that we were permitted to do exactly what we're doing in all legal channels without friendship or helps or pats on the back in December of 2014. We're doing exactly what we're legally permitted to do. We are asking for a conditional, what is it exactly? A conditional large use permit. And that merely states, that's the only thing that's up for grabs right now, guys, just so we're all clear on that. And the only reason we're asking for that is because if our events were to get larger, that would be accommodating. We own 2 properties that border each other. One of them is a commercial property. That's where our helipad is, where our 3 helicopter garages. And if we choose at this very moment to leave and build a parking garage there, we can. And we can park as many cars as we want on that commercial property. We also own the one that we do all our weddings on with our beautiful barn. So I feel like we're trying to be accommodating, we're trying to be honest, we're trying to be upfront. We're merely trying to celebrate these wonderful events. And Mr. Reese, you'll appreciate this. We took that property over in January. I had wanted to go back to work for over a year. This is a little bit too much personal information, but I feel like everybody's doing that, so I'm going to do it too. I used to own a design business, and after I had my children, my husband was not okay with me going back to work. So I prayed in earnest for over a year that when the time was right, the Lord would open that door for me and change my husband's heart. My partners and I were blessed enough to actually do a 60th wedding anniversary. Do you know how that's not even heard of? And if we continue moving forward, we're going to actually be blessed enough, Lord willing, to host a 70th wedding anniversary the first weekend in September. 70 years. That's awesome. But at that event, my husband went up to my best friend and my very dear partner, Deborah Jones, and said, "It's apparent we need to be doing this." And she said, "Brother, we've been waiting on you for 3 years," and we hit the ground running. Since I took over that property, every person that has stepped foot on it, I have either been able to glorify or testify in the Lord's name, and that's why we're there. Each of us are at different stages in our life, but we're meant to go through this door together. And it's not for any other reason than to serve the Lord, because at this date and time, when our economy and the sheer fiber of who we are as Americans is being constantly attacked and forced down our throats, we are 4 women that are God-fearing and love what we do. Now, I feel like we've been pushed too far, and it's not okay, and those are the facts. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Yes, sir.
I would, but I'm feeling too ugly to say no. I'm in favor of it, next.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay.
I guess I'll make a comment, Charlie. We have 2 opposing situations that we deal with every day almost as a commissioner. And that is that in one case, we want to observe and preserve and protect the neighborhood, the living conditions, and make appropriate use for land. And on the other side, we have people who own property, who have their private lands that they want to make use of, that they can. And we are always wanting to have to make that decision of, is this a proper use? Is it a legal use? That's obviously a first question. Is it something that promotes desirable living conditions or not? Does it cause depreciated values or not? Those are all the questions we have to answer. And I said, I think in the invocation, and you mentioned that the difficulty is in separating rule and fact, right and wrong, what's best and what's not best. That's our job. That's why Charlie gets paid the good bucks, I know. But we have to make that decision, and it's been made harder tonight on this case because there is legal action being considered, or I'm a defendant. We're all a defendant in a legal action. Makes it very difficult to speak openly when you're facing that, and I don't like that. But I do want to voice some of my rationale for what I want to do with this. If a person has private property and can use that property legally, I think we ought to always support that, unless, there's always that caveat, unless it creates a problem with adjacent property owners, and we all have that, doesn't matter, whatever law it is, we have to take that into consideration. I've looked at this from our current ordinance, and to be honest with you, I think we wouldn't even be here because I think our ordinance covers this wedding venue or that through our small events item, and we could even live with that, and I think the property owners could live with that. It does not have explicit objective statements as to what small means. That's open for the interpretation of lawyers and juries and things. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not going to interpret that law, but I think it would apply, and I would like to see this actually become left as a small venue, and we not even have to consider a spatial use for this land. That would be my personal feeling. That provides, to me, that provides additional protection to all the relevant neighbors in the neighborhood. It provides health there. There are laws already for problems with noise or problems with alcohol or problems with, we're not asking people to park on the street, but those kinds of safety issues can be addressed already with current laws. But I would prefer we let this stand as a small venue. That would be my personal take.
Well, a couple of comments that I suppose that I should make on this. First of all, this property is going to be put some use. That being said, I tend to think of this as one of the lesser problematic uses that the property could be put to. It maintains the beauty of the property, which I think everybody agrees is just, I guess, a real gem for the county. I believe that while putting the property to a reasonable use, I also believe that this will be good for Gilmer County from a business perspective. I think a lot of people that come in for these events will be overnight people. And I think a lot of them that do come in and stay overnight will come back. I mean, I just think Gilmer County has that much to offer that if we can get people here, I believe we can get them back. I do see some problems. As I mentioned before, I would see fireworks at the end of a wedding or at the end of an event, other than on holidays where you have fireworks anyway, as a problem. If I were to support this and vote in favor of this, I would want to, and we're talking about conditions here on this, this is a conditional hearing. I would want to have a condition that there not be fireworks on other than normal holidays. As Dallas mentioned, we do have the laws in place regarding noise ordinance and sound, and that would be something that, if it becomes a problem, that people can address through that particular vehicle. I would ask, have we thought about the maximum number? I know we talked about 50 as the maximum number of vehicles for a small venue. Have we talked about or thought about a maximum number for a large venue or for a conditional use?
Right. That's the only thing I was going to address with that. The majority of all of our weddings are approximately 100 to 150, give or take either direction, but those are the average. You can can look online and see that the majority of our packages are set up that way. Now, obviously, a wedding of that size is going to generate anywhere from approximately 50 to 75 cars. If you do anything bigger, you're probably, if you were to allot 100 cars, that's a 200-person wedding, because we all know, you know, everybody, you normally come in pairs. Not everybody's coming in at the same time, and not everybody's leaving at the same time. So I would consider, depending on the size, I would consider roughly, what do you guys think? Allotment of cars to be 150 max, because that would be a 300-person wedding, and our barn is set up to seat comfortably 150 to 175 with food service and a dance floor. So
I was thinking of a little smaller number. How would you feel about 100 cars?
I would be fine with that.
The law as it stands does not have a number. I think you realize that, for the large or small.
But with the conditional zoning,
We can specify that if we so wish. But I want to make it clear that that is not in the law itself, or in the zoning and the permit that's being given. That has to come from us, not from them. So you could have 100 cars for a small venue, wedding venue, and not violate the law unless we specify a limit.
So if we were to stay, just so I understand you clearly, if we were to be left at a small venue, there's actually not a number of cars that can come in or out of our venue.
I disagree with
Unless we as commissioners apply that restriction.
The county attorney said 50 cars at the last
that.
commission.
The legal opinion was 50 cars.
The legal, so what you're saying is
That is an opinion. It is not the law. Okay? Do
I
you
just
understand what I
want to
said?
understand.
That is the opinion, not the law.
Okay. Okay, well. Okay, you have any?
Brian wants to speak.
Brian? Oh, yeah. Good.
I get a little concerned on the conditional use. We sit here a couple of years ago and we argued over 20 hogs. If somebody could have 20 hogs, and we come up with one to figure out who was going to count them. And please, I am not advocating support for this or anything. I'm talking about conditional use. For every citizen here, for 4 years, we've had how many hogs can be out there, how many horses. So we've talked about conditional use, so I don't think we should change the discussion of conditional use from hogs to cars to be different.
Actually, those were applications that were for rezoning, and those were conditions that were placed on rezoning. What's before this board is completely different. It's an application for a conditional use.
Yeah, I'm going there, Mr. Clark.
Just so that you know.
Just so I
Can we get them?
I'm going there. Okay, conditional use makes me nervous. Who's going to count the cars? If 80 show up and 70 leave, and the train leaves for Chicago and it's going 85, who's going to go count the cars? Are we going to write a conditional use in this county that says number of cars per use? Now, I understand. Now, another thing is, the state of Georgia, we must have every municipality, they've already written stories. There's already stories, and there's already lawmakers wanting to pull back on the fireworks because they all of a sudden, they voted for it, but they didn't realize you can shoot fireworks 365 days a year in the state of Georgia. You can buy them 365 days a year. And there was actually lawmakers that voted for them under the Gold Dome that didn't realize it was limited to just holidays. You can go and shoot fireworks. So we're going to discuss following the state requirements for alcohol in a minute, but then we're going to go right back, and the first chance we get to put a conditional use on fireworks in the county, where are you going to stop with that? Because I'm going to tell you something, I got 2 dogs that's hiding under a bed because I got some boys across the street that just will not stop them fireworks.
Do you have any idea how much I hate it when you get logical with it?
Well, I mean, I'm not in, listen, I ain't got no dog in this fight. I don't, I live on north end of the county, until you come up there and we'll park 100 cars across the street in the cow pasture, that'd be a different story. I'm real concerned with them cars, and who's gonna go out there and hold the clicker, and do they have to call in to say 30 people left, and we bring in 30? I'm just concerned when we get to this conditional use and fireworks. Hey, look, if you don't like fireworks, I'm not upset, don't get that wrong. I'm just saying, there's a state law that says you can do that, that's all I'm up here for.
All right, thank you, Barry. During the break between the work session and this meeting, Jacob was able to obtain one definition of an event, or an event center, I should say. I know we had the discussion earlier that an event is nothing more than a time and a place, which is technically true. So, I believe that we can adopt a definition, our definition of the event in terms of this. And I like this particular one. It says a facility used for weddings, anniversaries, birthdays, showers, reunions, recitals, dances, and ethnic and religious celebrations, etc.
Leave the et cetera off.
Without the etc.
And credit really needs to be given to Shannon. Shannon's the one.
Oh, okay, Shannon, that's right, Shannon, thank you. It's a definition, and I like it. What do y'all think about it? It's one to work with.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know that we can, I like it, but I don't know that we can establish that without changing our ordinance. Can we?
You can, by virtue of what they apply for, you can place the condition, because they're asking for conditional use, and you can limit it to these particular activities. In fact, you should be limiting it.
For this particular application, for this unique, but not apply it to all large venue or small venue?
Because this one, you also want to restrict, and I know they've not made application for it, but for the stadium or for the circus or for the racetrack, you want to pull that in, you want to narrow that in at this point in time. And they've applied for a wedding event, that they have agreed that that's what they've made the application for. There just needs to be a definition and understanding of an event, because truly speaking, an event is as Charlie as it really should, and as it was presented by the opposition to this application. So, and I think this would cover just about everything that they had ever anticipated using the facility for, maybe with the exception of the celebration of life. That might be the only, that might be the only other item that I would suggest that you.
I wouldn't have a problem with adding that too, but it's.
But I think that would cover everything that they would reasonably.
I mean, like we said, we've had a college send-off party for a college student, which I mean, they were like family, people, or, you know, or something like that.
Dancing.
I mean, like I said, what is it?
What
Randall
do we
said,
add,
like celebration.
ethnic, religious, and any other?
Once the commerce comes in.
Religious, celebration of life.
Stay within this area, drink within this area, have a good time within this area the night before, the day before, the afternoon, the day after. I'm at. Have a commerce within this area. Exactly. Have within this area. It's a commerce. It's called commerce. What? That's why you build it. You have limits to bring in commerce, to bring in people.
Let's make sure, you don't need to public speak.
You don't have commerce here. Go to Arizona.
I don't know, what was I saying?
You were talking about, you were actually reading that definition of events.
Right, weddings, anniversaries, birthday showers, reunions, recitals, dances, ethnic and religious celebrations. And y'all were saying where would like celebration of life or.
Would fall under a religious celebration.
Okay. Okay.
What I would suggest, wedding, anniversaries, birthdays, showers, reunions, recitals, dances, ethnic, religious, academic, and corporate.
Well, and stuff like if, you know, the Chamber of Commerce wanted to have one of their evening get-together thing. I mean, obviously, there's a place for that, but that's more like a business function of sorts.
What about the Board of Commissioners having a place there? Mr. Chairman, I think.
I like the idea of the retreat.
There you go. I think what we're doing is, we're trying to pick a number and let somebody else see if they can come up with a number that's bigger.
Well,
We cannot satisfy every situation with specifics, and I think that's what our problem is here, and we.
And I realize the limiting the number of people, and I get what Brian's saying, because, you know, some things, if you limit the number of people, it's automatically going to limit the type of event. You know, obviously, you're not gonna, if you say you're gonna limit it to 100 cars and 300 people, well, that's gonna limit a lot of events just by sheer size. You're not gonna have a carnival and a, you know, fair and a festival and a, you know, whatever. Circus.
Right.
Circus. But,
That is as to y'all, remember the property is actually, this is something.
right, it goes with the property, it doesn't go with the, right.
That's the problem that you gotta have, is you gotta tag the property.
Right.
That's the concern, is I know that y'all would make the representation that in fact it wouldn't be broadened out and expanded, but I think the opposition is very concerned that the scope of the operation or the enterprise out there very well could change in 5 years.
What's an ethnic event? What's an ethnic event? I know what ethnic.
Well, not everybody is religious. They don't, I mean, you could be an atheist and you could say, I want to celebrate whatever, and it could be an actual ethnic event. You could have a Latino event, and that would be an ethnic event.
This is a definition that has been adopted in another jurisdiction, and I think that it would be, I mean, I'm not saying it can't be challenged, but I think that it's better to, instead of blazing a new trail, just follow an established trail.
This would apply to large and small.
Well, it would apply to this, which, if approved, will be large. If
No.
not approved, it doesn't matter.
Well, we're
It
operating
would
under
not
a small
apply to small
facility
then,
right
because
now.
no one has applied for a small, although they are already approved for a small venue.
They can do whatever the small definition, they can do whatever is permitted under the small definition, up to, my opinion, up 50 feet. Again, that's where there's some disagreement.
Right.
But as it's permitted as a small recreational facility out there at this one time. And that has, I mean, I guess that's got bungee jumping and mini putt golf course and some other.
Amphitheater, which means, you know, you could have a concert under amphitheater, that's, I mean.
Let's don't go there.
But I'm saying that's already a
Yeah.
permitted
Yeah.
use without even needing the
In a
condition.
small.
That's under small. So it's already, you know, an amphitheater can be a use.
That's going to be problematic for you, I think. Is that a consideration?
No.
Not.
Okay.
We're just saying that's one of the permitted uses already under small.
But if this is approved as a large, and if these are the uses it's approved for,
We would not have
then
concerts.
In my mind, whatever else might have been permitted is no longer. It would just be this.
Well, you're talking about the stadium and the circus.
Yeah, in other words, if,
If you limit it to a wedding or an event as a definition that's encompassed, that can't do anything beyond what's already in the definition.
Right.
okay.
We can't build
Now,
that, right?
I understand the need for a definition for narrowing it down.
Right. Yes.
And it looks like narrowing it down is not going to be too narrow, because we keep adding things.
No, I mean, like I said, if you follow this, everything that we said we want to do falls under this. Basically, I mean, as long as you don't say, well, that's celebration of life, those people were not Christians, so that's not a religious thing.
No, I think we would have to add social and business to these.
But that still won't change the limit of cars that are allowed on property.
No.
It's just the,
No, this is just how we define, or what we allow as an event.
Right. So are we still talking about the vehicle limit as well?
I am not in favor of limiting something that we will not enforce. That's a waste of our
Well, I think if somebody starts putting up a racetrack around there, we'll enforce it.
No, I'm speaking
He's
specifically.
saying size, he's saying size, like who besides the neighbors are gonna stand out there and, you know, count cars? And if they
And you
call,
can't see them from the road.
and if they call sheriff's dispatch,
So
you know,
you're
where they
feeling
gonna be?
that we should have no limit on cars?
Only if we feel that we will enforce it. That's, we got, do we enforce the number and size of a animal? Have we ever?
No, but.
Ever in the history of Gilmer County?
If it came up as a complaint, we would enforce it. We would go out. If one of those, rezonings David referred to, that the previous commission, limited 2 pigs on, if the neighbor called and said he had 5, and we went out, and I pulled his farming information, and it said that he was approved for 2 only, we would act on that.
Let me add one thing. You're not imposing a vehicle limit, they're giving you a suggestion of a vehicle limit. There's a big difference here, and it's Charity.
Yes, sir.
She's the one that suggested 100 cars. And if that's all right with the applicant, I don't know that you need to expand it with others. They're comfortable with that.
I think she actually suggested 150.
I said anywhere, 50 is limiting us to a 100-person limit. And the majority, and like you said, I feel like this is good for Gilmer County for this very reason. In our packets, when we sign these, we're using local caterers, period. We're using local cake makers, local photographers, not to mention the fact that there's only one hotel in Gilmer County. So in our packet, we're actually listing all the rental properties that are on this road, all the surrounding areas. So and yes, you're right, people are coming and staying more than one night. They're coming back. There are people that have had their weddings here. They're actually planning to come back in the fall to do family pictures on the property. I mean, so I just don't see how this can't be a win-win. You can't see the cars at all, even if there were 150 cars. You can't see them from the road because we're not parking them in the middle of the cow pasture. And even if we were, you couldn't see those from the road because our property goes down and around. And we actually have them. We've actually worked with our photography staff to figure out where we can actually park our cars, so we're not even in the photography that's done on the property during the wedding.
But there's still the traffic of 150 cars coming in and out. And to me, the idea of limiting it to 100 cars, Dallas, if there's 108 cars out there, I don't think anybody's going to go out there and count a care. But if there's 300 cars out there, somebody's going to.
You might need to talk to Mr. Jordan, because Mr. Jordan comes and counts the cars on every event. No, I'm being serious, Mr. Jordan, am I right? We count our cars every time,
I
don't
don't have to, Roger's counting for us.
There you go.
Okay.
You haven't called me yet, but I'll see you
There you
there.
go.
Let's decide this and move on. Do we want to limit the number of cars to some figure?
Okay, you want Gilmer County to grow, but you want to limit the number of cars that come in.
No, my idea is I don't want to overwhelm multi-road.
And we're gonna do this.
Well, are we going to talk, and if we're not going to talk about limited number of cars, that's fine. Let's just decide that and move on. I just don't want to spend the next 20 minutes talking about number of cars.
I think it's defining the word event is more important.
Okay. I know that's good with you.
I don't mind doing that. I still want to say that I think the best answer is allow you to use the permit you already have that's been approved and go with it. That limits, because it says small.
But they're still suing even based on that permit.
I have no control.
You know, because it's not defined either.
Okay, moving
So
on.
so now that still goes back to the definition.
Moving right along.
Of the definition.
We are then not going to discuss a limit of cars. We will instead focus on what is an event. So, let me add social and business. So for now, we're at weddings, anniversaries, birthdays, showers, reunions, recitals, dances, ethnic and religious celebrations, academic, corporate, social, and business activities. That pretty much covers it all, right? of the reasonable things that could be.
Does that work as a definition for y'all?
Dallas, even though you're opposed to the whole idea of it, if it's approved, is that?
I think that's a good definition. It's obviously not comprehensive and complete. It's incomplete. That's always going to be the case.
You
cannot.
That narrows it.
It was always be.
It's always, but I understand. Okay.
Okay, so, what I would propose is that we approve the large venue, that we stipulate that there be no fireworks at the end of the events, other than holidays, that you normally have that, and that the events be defined as we just mentioned here. And that's the only, that's, I'll make that in the form of a motion, and that's what I said, so.
Let's take out the word end of events and just say events on the fireworks.
Look, I just wrote no fireworks.
Good point.
That's all I wrote, there's no fireworks.
Good point. No event, no fireworks at events, unless it's a 4th of July celebration or New Year's Eve celebration.
You can fire guns, but no fireworks.
Sorry. So we can have a.
We have our priorities.
Come on. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
We are southern.
Okay, so my motion is approve large venue, no fireworks at the events. Events are defined as what we just said. And that's the extent of my motion.
I'll second.
Now, God help me, I have to ask, any discussion?
Mr. Clark, who enforces the no fireworks? If they were to have fireworks, would that be the sheriff? Would he enforce the no fireworks? And can they enforce it based on the state law?
They could enforce it, in fact, if they did, in fact, if they were shooting off fireworks, the county could pull the conditional use.
Okay, all right.
Okay, if there's, oh, yes, sir. I need to ask you to come to the podium, please.
We talked about weddings. We talked about being Christian. And I'm not saying anybody is or is not, but this is traditional Christian community. So if you're talking about weddings and you have the same-sex requests for weddings, you'll do those just like you would the others, correct?
I didn't say that, and I don't think that's relevant to the situation. That's not even off the table.
I would have to agree that that's not something that we can,
Just so we're clear, by
specify.
federal law, anywhere in the state of Georgia or anywhere across the United States is required to do that, whether you like it or not.
I understand that, but you'll be happy when you do that, unlike Christians in Gilmer County.
Just for the record, we're in the process of working on that, and we have no intention of doing that. By federal law, that's not up to us right now, Mr. Briggs.
That's answering my question.
So, we are strongly opposed.
Okay. We have a motion and a second.
Before we vote, I'm going to make
All
one
right.
statement. I think there's a different way of solving the problem, and I would like to pursue that, but I will not worry about it. So go ahead. I'll call for a vote.
All right. All in favor? Aye.
No.
All right, that is approved with the conditions as stated. Action on amending the Gilmer County Code as to Article 2, Chapter 10, titled Alcoholic Beverages. Again, there are three objectives here. The first objective is to be able to sell beer at the golf course. Along with that, since, to answer the question before it's asked, yes, they would be able to open it and drink it there at the golf course. The second objective would be to allow farm wineries at the events that they have to provide beer in addition to the wine. And the discussion that took place in the work session was that we believe that according to Georgia law and according to kind of the way we feel like it ought to be anyway, that it needs to be Georgia beer.
Georgia grown.
Georgia grown.
Are we discussing item 10 or 11? Aren't those two separate items, Commissioner?
They are separate items, but they are separate items, but they are included in the same change, so we've sort of combined them. The document that we have that makes one available also makes it available, the same document for wineries. So that's the second objective. The third objective is to provide an absolute level playing field for businesses in Gilmer County. If you open a convenience store, you have the background and the means to pass the necessary checks and to otherwise obtain a beer and wine license. You should not be prevented from that because there's somebody down the road that already has a license. So we're trying to level the field on that and say that everybody has the same opportunity. Those are the three objectives. We are not talking about distilled spirits. We are not talking about licenses to pour, other than what already exists with the wine tasting rooms. I guess that's pretty much it. Any comments?
Larry Likens. I'm going to speak to the farm winery side of this, although I will just say I do think it's a very good idea to have alcohol at the golf course. I think that would benefit that.
We do have alcoholic beverages at the golf course. We
To be able to sell for profit for the golf course. I think that helped the golf course. I think they helped the events there. But when I asked you to put farm wineries on the agenda, I was asking to have a broader discussion than just beer at events. Now, I would love to have beer at events. If that has to be a compromise, that's the only way we can
I think
go.
I oversimplified when I was stating what our three objectives were. What is actually proposed in the documents that we're considering is to bring the farm wineries under the state law.
To say something to the effect of, to say something to the effect of, where does it say it in here? I have the farm winery ordinance here in front of me. Farm winery may conduct all of the lawful activities permitted unto it by the Georgia Code 3-6-21.1. And that is as simple as, that's all comprehensive, is as simple as it can be, in my opinion. When this was originally written, Mr. Chairman Chastain it was originally written under Chairman Ferris, and we had a lot of negotiating to get anything, and then under Chairman Chastain, we had to negotiate and compromise more. What I'm asking is we just, exactly like you said, mirror the state law. And abide by the state law to help us to not be at a competitive disadvantage to our surrounding communities and to provide us all the things that the state seems deems necessary to function as a farm.
Okay,
Are we on the same page with that?
Let me make sure. I'm sure we are, but let me get to the specific section here.
Charlie, the only thing that y'all are not incorporating as far as the state law is concerned is the sale of distilled spirits, which is not permitted in the county.
Or beer. And also our ordinance restricts us to Georgia wine only where the state ordinance does not.
Right, and that's the two things that y'all, if you're gonna allow the farm wineries to sell beer, but it would be a Georgia domestic brewery, which, you know, again, is and then Georgia farm wine, which they can already sell at other Georgia farm winery. What, I guess Larry's question.
The state farm winery ordinance does not specify Georgia wine or Georgia beer or Georgia alcohol. It states to be a farm winery, you have to produce wine from at least 40% of grapes grown in the state of Georgia. And then it says that you can sell beer and wine from other places as well.
And I think that they realized that, and that when it was being discussed in the work session, they felt like that the promotion of Georgia domestic brewery was a good thing because of the fact that farm winery was recognized as Georgia agritourism.
Well, I can tell you personally that is my intention to sell Georgia beer, but again, that's not mirroring the state law. And every time the state law changes or evolves or does something different, we're going to have, I feel like I'll be coming back up here again to try to fight for this.
I would disagree, Larry, because of the fact that they're giving you that opportunity to sell to the Georgia domestic brewery, a beer brewed by the Georgia domestic brewery is, the only thing, there's nothing the state would change that would go beyond that at any point. The state is very relaxed in that what they would permit. The only thing the state could do is restrict, which was to bring it in so that you could sell this to spirits or the other. But I think what the county and their objective was trying to see is that it was a good cross promotion of both. And of course, you know, there's Abandoned Brewery and there's quite a few other things here locally that will cross promote each other as well.
Well, I do agree. I'm a big fan of cross-marketing, cross-promotion. And again, it is my intention, and I can only speak for my farm winery, to do Georgia beer. But to restrict and say you can't sell Bud Light. I mean, there's a Budweiser plant in Georgia, isn't there?
Yes.
So how are we going to define that?
It's going to fall under the Georgia brewery language, the definition. I don't think, and I'm almost 100% certain that the Budweiser plant's not a domestic Georgia domestic brewery.
I guess I don't understand the Georgia domestic brewery definition.
Yeah, if you look, there's about 6 or 7. And you know, Sweetwater is one out of Athens. There's a couple others like that. But again, what they're trying to do is the farm wineries are being promoted as Georgia agritourism. And they're trying to keep it as Georgia agritourism with respect to.
By they, you mean these commissioners, or are you talking about they mean these commissioners, they mean the state ordinance?
The commissioners did.
And that's a theme from the Department of Agriculture. Georgia's wrong, and it's just trying to piggyback that because we're promoting agritourism, and that's a big push. You say Georgia.
Sure, I agree. I agree with it. And if that's a stipulation, a compromise, is something I'm willing to accept if we can get all the other things, because this law is going to continually evolve and change. There's new bills that go through the House that affect farm wineries, and we had 2 last year that affect farm wineries. So there's always going to be something. And I think the simplest way to do it and not worry about it anymore is just to mirror the state law. And there's, beyond that, there's, in my opinion, the Chapter 32 of our farm wineries needs to be edited, because there's certain things in there that, for example, there's a definition of samples. That's a Gilmer County definition. That's not a Georgia definition. There are, for some reason, in our ordinance, we talk about orchard tasting rooms, and admittedly, I helped write this, and I don't know how that got in there, and I don't even know what that really means, what an orchard tasting room is. Our ordinance also restricts it to grapes. So what if someone wants to come in and have a fruit winery, blueberries, peaches, blackberries like Merciers does up in Fannin County? What if someone wants to come in our county and do that? Or the way our ordinance is currently written, technically that's illegal, the way our ordinance is currently written.
Where is the part about grapes? I don't remember that.
Oh, goodness, let's see.
And Larry, in this.
Section 32-5.
And in this board's defense, I mean, you were very instrumental in putting this original document, and then subsequently the amendment to it. So, I mean, this is something that I don't want them to be felt like that it's, you know.
Oh, I take equal responsibility for this and compromise with the other commissioners, and David and I worked on this, and I think his father before him worked on it with Commissioner Ferris and I. So I take equal responsibility for many of this, but I see this as an opportunity to make it better, make it what it is. Talking about grapes.
I see it.
Okay.
That's setting the time where they can start their tasting rooms as the point of time where they begin to harvest their own grapes. Is that what you're referencing? First paragraph?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it says own
Your
grapes.
point is that-
We could easily change that to fruit. Or we could, in my opinion, just eliminate that whole last sentence. And that, it just takes so much question and so much problem away from the ordinance.
Is this last sentence, is there any requirements from the state, or is that strictly a county thing?
And Larry, when you're saying delete, let's say, you're talking about beginning where it says only one tasting room shall be located on said property, and then continuing on through the sentence, or are you talking?
Where
about?
are you, or what, you in 32.5?
I'm in 32.3.
The way I'm taking this is under 32.5, first paragraph will start with an application for license, that sentence there. Is that?
Yeah, well, 32.5 reference grapes and 32.3 reference grapes. They're both a problem if you're going to make, in my opinion, I'm not a lawyer, but it seems to me to be a problem if you're going to make fruit wine from blackberry or peaches.
The one thing that, under 32.3, was the concern of the previous boards, was the active ongoing operation. And that's something I don't know that you necessarily want to eliminate, because, you know, you want the farm winery to be an.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
We don't want to eliminate.
But I mean,
that, we
changing
can
it to the
eliminate
harvest,
grapes.
you can change that to fruit, harvest to fruit.
And, you know, I do have a mild problem with only one tasting room should be located on said property. I specifically remember Commissioner Chastain, that was something that he wanted. But if you have a property that's, I don't know how you, a tasting room is defined by the state of Georgia. You have to be licensed, and has to be a specific address and all those fun things. So, just to give you a very specific example, my property has 2 separate addresses because it has separate buildings on it, and you need 911 addresses. So I run into trouble all the time with the state and the federal licensing, because I have a business license that has one address, and I have a federal license that has another address, and then I have to correlate those two. But that's neither really here nor there. If you're going to have it on one property of 2 separate addresses, and you want to have a tasting room on this side or tasting room on that side, you're going to have to be licensed for that. It's going to be a hard thing to do anyway. I don't know why you want to do that. And I don't know really what Mr. Chastain was trying to do with that. Again, it would simplify it just to remove it, because that is governed by the state of Georgia and by the federal laws, what you can do there. And the federal permit I have actually allows me to put a winery anywhere on my said property. I've chosen where it is at the one address as opposed to the other. And that's just one of many examples that I bring up to try to simplify this. I don't know. I've made edits to what I would like to see on this. I'm happy to share them. And have further discussion. I had no intent, I didn't think this was a meeting to pass anything. I thought this was a meeting to begin discussion.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to share my edits, what I would like to see. Happy to do that via email, however you might want to do it. And they all boil down to the basic reason of streamlining and simplification.
We can still consider that and prior to the public audience? Or do we have to pass something out here specifically for the public audience?
I got to put something together to begin the advertisement, so if we don't make considerable amount of changes, that is the reason I thought we probably have a special call meeting in that process. Because I hate to go into the first meeting and it's a general, it's a further conversation. I'd like to get to know, some of the things he's mentioning in the presentation, and I know that was his first time to do before, I don't see the reason for some of it. And I haven't seen the edits that he suggested, so I consider.
Do you all want to go for a special call meeting?
I would agree with David that we probably need to do that.
So I'll use table this and we'll call a special call meeting.
But I don't think y'all need to lose sight of the fact that you wanted to have it work for you in August and all.
Oh, no, that's, because we're already in the beginning.
And just a suggestion, what we did last time was, David and I did a lot of emails back and forth to each other with our suggestions, and we would present them to the commissioner, and I would give my input. And I thought it worked well, working it that way. I don't know David's feelings on that, but
If we do this, the first opportunity we're going to have for a special meeting will be probably a week from Monday.
Yeah, and I won't be able to participate in that, that's the 22, 24, first day of the night. But it still doesn't, we can still run the advertising, but we still get good.
I'm okay that it's taking a couple extra months to get it right. Just that's me speaking personally.
I would agree with that, Larry.
I think that we've got some situations where we really do need to move this along quickly. It's not your situation, it's different.
Charlie, it's not to interrupt, but if y'all could go forward on the alcohol ordinance, leave one monitor to the side.
Okay, well,
It's only.
I think that's it.
We got to do it twice. The ordinance, hearings, and
Well, the alcohol ordinance is a separate ordinance from the farm right ordinance. Farm right ordinance does reference alcohol ordinance. They're two separate ordinances.
yeah,
But the point is.
we were going to do it in one change rather than two.
Technically, it is two changes, there was two different ordinances. You were just electing to do them together at the same time. So if y'all wanted to postpone the home monitors for further discussion and development, you could, the changes that you're asking to occur on the alcohol.
Well,
ordinance,
not entirely, because there's also exceptions and wording in the first one relative to farm wineries. They're tied together a little more than, there's cross-references there.
Exclusion for farm lines, it's in the first.
Well,
So even though they're separate, there's a tie there that ought to go as one in my mind.
regarding the existing language. So I mean, you're not suggesting to change that, and I don't think that's a first suggestion as far as changing the language. But
I'm,
the 27th, if you wish to meet that week, that would be fine.
does that work for the calendar?
Well, not that I'm the end all with farm wineries, but I won't be here on the 27th. We're taking vacation. But I have other farm winery people here that are happy to talk to.
But you'll have the interim to make your inputs.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, I am going to make a motion that we move forward. Okay, yes, sir.
I'd like to say,
Yes.
Gary Engel with Engelheim Vineyards. And so I wanted to amplify a couple points as you guys go through and start looking at this. One thing that we've done recently cooperatively with the different wineries that are here is we started an unofficial organization, if you will, called LJ Wine Country. So we'll be working together to work with you to get this to where it needs to be. And we think, and like Larry said, we're in favor of simplification of things as we go forward. So I want to reiterate that Larry's not the only one saying that. We're all sitting there saying that we need to simplify things as we move forward. Going along with the fruit wines and stuff like that, one of the things that I've been asked a lot by customers and clients that come in is apple wine. This is apple capital of Georgia. You know, I want to promote that, okay? I want to sell that, and LJ Wine Country was set up and designed to support this as wine country for Georgia, if you will. The idea of being able to pour and sell a glass of beer or something like that is important, especially for events, because like they have events, we also will have events. People want to do weddings, or I got a rehearsal dinner tomorrow night at my place. Some people would like to have a beer rather than a glass of wine, that type of thing. I'm not a bar, don't have any intention to be a bar, and I tell people that all the time. If you want to go to sit and drink at a bar, go sit and drink at a bar, but I don't have stools at my bar for that reason, except for handicapped folks. So anything that you can do to help us to do that, we appreciate that. And one thing I did want to mention as we go forward, we talked about Georgia Grown, we give a good lip service, Commissioner Black does that. As we go forward, let's talk about really incentivizing people to be Georgia Grown. There's a lot of people that, and rightfully so, can buy grapes from somewhere else. Certain grapes I can get from someplace else because they don't grow well here, or fruit. However, for people that are growing grapes here, it's difficult to do. It can be done extremely well. We've won significant awards, all of us have for that. But to some assistance in recognition on some state credits or something like that, that's some things, or even if we supported the idea of a state viticulture chair or a enology chair at the University of Georgia, those type of things is what we're trying to do as a statewide organization as well. So that you understand some of the things we're moving forward with, not necessarily from a selfish perspective, but from an industry perspective as a whole, it can help us all as we move forward. So I just wanted to throw out a couple of those things there because I think it's important for as we move forward, because this industry, we believe, can make a huge difference here in Gilmer County and the state. Georgia used to be the 6th largest producer of grapes in the United States before Prohibition. A lot of people don't realize that. And the premier winemaker in the country was in Dublin, Georgia at that time. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. We already have these split out on our agenda, so going to item 11.
Wait a minute, are you tabling those both?
It is my intention to make a motion to table the farm wineries for further input, but to go forward with the alcoholic beverage.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I thought because they said they were together. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Just for expediency's sake, you're aware of our condition because we spoke earlier. Do we need to speak, or do you think we will be accommodating?
Your situation is not relevant to the Georgia Farm Wineries part of it. And so the motion that I'm making is to go forward with the alcoholic beverages part and to table the farm wineries for more input. For your situation, you're interested in the alcoholic beverages part. And that would, my motion will be that we go forward with that immediately. Yes, sir.
Charlie, let me ask you, this alcoholic beverage, is this meaning that Gilmer County is going to start pouring, or are they going to start pouring?
Absolutely not.
Okay, well, what would it be?
If you go to play golf, and we have a snack bar there, and you walk in and you order yourself a sandwich, you can order a can of beer with it. If you want to get a can of beer and take it out on the porch with you.
Are we hurting that bad to have to sell beer? I mean, we're looking at school kids up there playing golf. We're looking at a road that's terribly crooked, I mean, what's next? Are we gonna start selling at Tank Park or at the swimming pool? I mean,
No, but we
I
are,
don't think what revenue it would generate is gonna make or break the county, and I just like to say I'm opposed to that.
we're not looking at it in terms of revenue, we're looking at it in terms of enhancing the golf course. But, I do understand your opposition to it.
I'd hate to be on that road after 18 holes of people drinking.
Well, if you're on that road now, you are.
That in itself. All right, well, I just wanted to let you know that would be opposed to that.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak to any of this? Yes, sir.
I'm not sure I really understand all the changes that this implies. If it's possible, could you summarize? I know we talked about bigger, golf course. But my understanding is that it ranges a lot further than that. I think you mentioned convenience stores, other things like that.
We have a couple of locations in the county right now where we have situations where we have convenience stores that otherwise would qualify for a beer and wine license. But, for instance, there may be somebody 3 miles down the road, a convenience store that already has a beer and wine license, so therefore they can't have it. So what we're saying is that if some businesses are allowed to have beer and wine licenses, then all businesses should have that opportunity. We're not talking about lessening any of the requirements to get a license in terms of background, financial, and so forth. We're just saying that just because the guy down the street's already got one, shouldn't mean that you can't have one. So we're trying to sort of level the playing field and have it where if you have a business in Gilmer County that normally would sell, have a beer and wine license, whether it be a supermarket or a convenience store or whatever, that if you can meet the other licensing requirements, you should not be prohibited because of some guy that's already got one down the street from you or something like that. Yeah. Now that does, I need to say that as part of that, a couple of things are being lessened, and in some cases eliminated, and that is proximity to the nearest residence and proximity to a church, which I think is probably something that would be of interest to you.
Well, certainly it is one of them, and I know I'm actually on the State Ethics and Public Policy Board, and we deal with this at the state level. And the state has recognized that simply because we afford this to one group does not mean we're obligated to afford it to everybody. There are some restrictions that are valid. One of those is, at the state level, is the size of the facility and location, distance from schools, distance from churches. Obviously, we recognize that this is coming. I mean, that we already have it here. It's changed a lot in the 23 years I've been here. But I have to say this, because I honestly have never spoken in a meeting before, and that's part of my problem, is that I don't want to get up here and act like a fool, and I don't want to get up here and have people think I'm totally irrational, or that I am one of those kind of people, because I've always tried to be very tolerant and understanding. I personally don't approve of drinking because I was an alcoholic, and thank God I have been able to be clean for 30 years now. But I know what it can do, and I also know what it does to neighborhoods and to areas. And so all I ask you is that these were regulations that were placed on people before we came, that were discussed and were arrived at by people of good intentions, just as you are. I sat here tonight and I was amazed and wondered, why would anybody want to be a county commissioner? Why would anybody want to be an elected official?
Same thoughts crossed my mind.
But while I did, I was thankful that you guys are, and I know, your good intentions, and I know your backgrounds, and I know your values, and I'm not here to question that. I'm just simply to say, this is the first I heard about it, and it's a big change. It is a significant change. I remained silent in my lifetime, which was nearing 71 years, on a lot of major issues, because I just didn't want to deal with the system. I never got involved in politics because I had this misshaped idea that politics is dirty, and it's not. And in my lifetime, I've seen local and state and national laws passed that I would have never imagined. And most of them start with small things. It's called the erosion process. And little by little, this is not the country my father gave me. And I have a responsibility, even if I am 71 years old and have never spoken before, to not be negative and not to be disagreeable, but to try to stand up to things that I believe in, whether it changes your opinion tonight or changes any law or any regulation that people may bring up. As a church, we are going to be under tremendous pressure in the near future. And we're going to see people cowered because of decisions that are being made and being unwilling to speak out because their freedom is going to be restricted in ways that we never imagined. And yet, when I try to mobilize people to go and participate and speak both at the state level and the local level, they say, I don't want to get involved. And so generally, the people that you hear from are the ones that have something personally at stake. I have nothing personally at stake here other than this is a place I love, and it's a lot harder to regain that ground once we've given it up. I feel no obligation to an individual who comes in, purchases a business knowing there is no license, and then tries to change things to make it more favorable. I can understand that, but I think if you come in and you start a business, and you're willing to do it under those conditions, they're there for a reason. I'm concerned about distance, concerned about distance from churches. I just think it's bad precedent. We have a situation in our church where we have tried to be good neighbors and allow the city to use our property for parking to our own detriment at times. Now our concern is what's going on in that parking lot is kind of dangerous with all the changes around town and a lot of the drinking that's going on. We have a school there, and we have kids there. I should have stood up and spoken years ago. It just breaks my heart that we are to this point where we are reaping the rewards for being silent for so long. And I thank you for your time. I thank you for your service. Thank you for your consideration. I would ask you if you would, to, just as you postpone this one, because there are a lot of issues, I wish you would postpone the other, discuss it more, look a little bit more closely, and see if there are not some parts of that regulation that should be maintained, that deal with distance, that deal with saturation. Who knows, a year, 2 years, 5 years from now, what's coming and what might be requested once here is done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I think at this point, to fully represent our client, we need to speak.
Would you come to the podium?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'm Fielding, Alderman. This is my business partner, Sonia Moretti. We are land and commercial realtors with Virtual Property Realty. We have many clients in this city and in this county. I think it's important to say this is a county issue that we're talking about right now. We represent clients that are very near and dear to us. We love this county, we love this community, we love our clients. We're Christians, we operate our business in a Christian-like manner. Our clients are Christians. They've operated their business in a Christian-like manner. They're church-going people. They're very respective of the churches that are within proximity of their property. We're talking about Stanley Chevron. Charlene and Hobart Ralston have spent their lives in this business. They are across the street from a church. Based on the state requirements, they're far enough away from that church. Based on the county requirements, there's a single-family residence next door. That's prohibited. Based on your 100 feet off of a street or highway, that's prohibited for us. And we said earlier in the workshop, if we're here to make things easy, we believed in just mirroring the state statute 3-3-21. When you start talking about contingencies and special permitting and specials, that's when you start, dividing up, and that divides sides, it gets emotional. We understand that you want to be in charge of your regulations and your statutes. So we understood your, Mr. Dallas, your comments earlier. The state statute no longer has mention of a church in any proximity. This is for beer and wine. The only statutes now that mention a church are liquor, distilled spirits, and that's 200 yards. There's still, in the state requirement, the limitation of being within 300 feet of a school, alcoholic treatment center, and governmental housing authorities. We had a contingency contract on the sale of Stanley Chevron over a year ago, and it was a good offer, but it had a contingency on beer and wine. Now, these aren't people that are just coming into the community. These are people that have lived their whole lives here. Charlene and Clay, who's deceased now, their father had a station there in the 60s. The ordinances in this county changed in 1994 because of a fatal traffic accident and a family member who had ties to the county commissioner. And that's when these more stringent, I didn't say that word overly, but more stringent requirements were placed on beer and wine in this county due to an establishment that was not operating properly, over-serving, and these were people pouring. So a fatal traffic accident and a knee-jerk reaction. Like we said earlier, we are not here to support and promote alcohol, but we are here to ask for fair and equal treatment for our clients. They are one of 2 grocery store, convenience store gas stations in the county that are not able to serve beer and wine. Well, that certainly hurts the ability to sell. They're trying to retire. Their health has been failing. So in the year we've been coming to planning and zoning meetings and coming to county commissioner meetings, the prices we're being offered now are in decline. Charlene and Hobart are tired, they're sick, they want to retire. So their ability to keep going at the level that Clay was going is diminishing, and now the prices are falling. We have a contract now, contingent based upon beer and wine. So earlier we were asking, just mirror the state. We believe that that's reasonable enough. But we understand the state has a clause that the county can put more stringent requirements. We're just asking that the requirement of having a single family residence next door and the requirement of being 100 feet away from the street are considered and eliminated. The statute about the church, Stanley's was already far enough distance away from that church. We understand not coming in and changing the community, but these people who have contributed to the community, who are now in the golden years of their life and in decline, this has impeded their ability to sell. To speak to conditional and contingency requirements, in this day and age, anyone that sells, or anyone that has a convenience store, they sell beer and wine. People that play in golf courses, they sell beer. We have a piece of property that we have an investor that's interested, and we'd like to see another Chateau Elan. Places that are that type of business have tasting rooms. Yes, they serve, they sample, they have tourism. We have investors wanting to come into this county. We've had over 30 people that we've shown Stanley Chevron to, and every one of them walked away because of beer and wine. If they're going to invest that much money in a business, they want to have the same rights and privileges as all of their competitors in town. So all we've asked for is to level that playing field. And again, we don't promote alcohol by standing here, but we do promote fair and equal treatment of our clients. We have other clients in this county. We have investors chomping at the bit to come here. But when you make things more restrictive than the rest of the counties, you know, we just had legislation that changed because of states doing something different from the others. So now regulations are more, let's make it equal across the board. Again, we don't promote these things, but we do promote fairness for our clients. We have a contingency time frame, so the reason we felt the need to stand up, we didn't want to speak again and take this time. But when we talk about now postponing and postponing and postponing, we've been after this for over a year. And to postpone, we're likely to lose the offer that we have on the table. If you've seen Charlene and Hobart lately, they're not the people they were a year ago. Clay's death has diminished their health. They're not happy to be at that business anymore. It's heartbreaking. The value of that business continues to decline as their health and ability to work there decline. We have a good opportunity on the table. We're just asking to level that playing field. Let us get our business done for these good people.
Thank you.
Let's see, 7 hours and you've been 3 hours.
I should point out, just as a matter of interest, I suppose, and then I'll get to you, Brian, that I am personally a teetotaler, don't drink, just don't have any interest in it. Not a morality or anything like that. I just don't care anything about it. I do care about having a good business environment in Gilmer County I do understand the need to balance that with the other considerations. And with that in mind, at this point, I'm still inclined to say that I think we need to go forward.
Well, I guess it depends what we're, I'm a teetotaler also. I've never taken a beer up to the golf course or intend to go buy a beer, but, Mr. Heiss, I agree with you 100% if we stop the brown bag. But, I agree with you 100%. But tomorrow, somebody can, not one person, but there could be 200 cans of beer consumed at the job.
Will be.
Will be, not can be, will, it's gonna be hot. There'll be 200 cans of beer consumed at the golf course tomorrow. I don't drink, but, so we either do one or two things. We either pull the brown bag or we handle it properly. Now, the way it is now with the brown bag, we have very little control. We have very little control of seeing what's brought in the cooler, what's taken out in the cooler. We have very little control to see what they're doing. Really what we'd be doing is there'd still be 200 cans of beer tomorrow, but the gentleman that is renting the cafe or whatever it is, that we again, the citizens, are paying a bill on, he would increase his business because then you have to purchase it. You can't bring it no more. You have to purchase it. And that'd be, we don't know if they're coming from Atlanta and filling their cooler before they get here. I feel bad advocating getting sales tax off alcohol because I don't drink, but the facts remain. It would be purchased here, so the sales tax, we know all would come to Gilmer County. That's number one. Number two, the gentleman would make a profit up there, and the list goes on. So we're going to have 200 cans tomorrow, one way or the other, up at the golf course. So I'm not advocating it, but at the same time, if we're going to have 200 cans at the golf course, it's better you and I get the dollar off of it than not a dollar. I don't know how that sounds, but anyhow, the only thing I would ask, the only thing I would ask is that we clear the business of the county and the current proprietor of the cafe, because at this time it's 1 year and the county gets a percentage of the deal, rent and a percentage. So you're basically in business with the guy right now for a year. So I would like to see you clear that water up.
We can clear that.
Yeah, that's right. That's the only thing I'd ask is for you to clear that up so the county's not actually in business with the guy. And two, then if you're going to do that and you're going to make a move on the alcohol, you need to go ahead and make a move on what the cafe cost is going to be per year. Kind of some things like that need to be, put together at one time. Clear it up and say, hey, because you give somebody the sale of alcohol up there, that's a very lucrative business. That's the only thing I would ask, and the county's liabilities because we own the golf course if somebody would leave it. That's basically it.
Thank you. Are there any more comments? Yes, sir.
Brian Reese. I play golf with White Pad several times a week. And I think tomorrow there'll be 205 cans consumed there. Because I may play tomorrow. I think if you restrict sales to only at the pro shop, you're going to see a dramatic drop in players, which you ought to consider. Because many of them, there's 140 members of the club up there now. And a fair share of them contribute that 200 cans of beer a day. And they may be turned off and they may go into Fields Ferry or Callahan's or somewhere nearby course. So it's just a consideration that if you allow the pro shop to sell beer, fine. But if you also restrict, that's the only place you get beer, I think you're going to see an adverse effect on the golf line.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I made a lot of comments during the workshop, and I don't know that I need to repeat a lot of those. I would like to agree. I would like to see this held at a later date with a special call meeting to cover these issues. We have a lot of questions, a lot of words that we don't yet know the effect of. I don't know whether we need to include. I wouldn't have a problem including the prohibiting brown bagging. We have to think about, do we prohibit happy hour and promotion and sales or 2-for-1s or all of those. There's a lot of those things, and there's a lot of details we aren't going to get covered tonight or in this ordinance, and I think we need to consider those. But my overriding feelings are that we already, I went back and looked, we already spend over $5 million a year for our judicial and public safety, not just public safety, but actually the sheriff and the jail, we spend more than $5 million on. The leading contributing factor to what that money goes for and why we spend that money is either alcoholism or alcohol abuse. We cannot not face that fact that we are spending a lot of money in this county, and I don't care how much extra sales we have of alcoholic beverages, that will not make up for $5 million that we spend for the portion of that. And that doesn't include the judicial side of the DA and the court system to handle the cases that they have. So I'm concerned that we have a situation in all counties and in nation that we're not addressing. Therefore, I'm not in favor of increasing laws or changing laws or renewing them or repealing them even, if we are going to create a situation where we have more consumption of alcoholic beverages. I think that's moving the wrong direction from a health, from a safety, from the welfare, from the peace and quiet that we have in this county. And I do not mean to stop business from doing what they should legally do. I think that's, we should not do that, but I am not willing to vote to increase the threat to the citizens of this county for something that I don't think will provide a benefit to the county and the citizens, other than individuals, single individuals, or 2 individuals, or 2 locations, two enterprises. And I also am not going to agree that we, as a county-owned facility, should be profiting from the sale of alcoholic beverages in that location. I think that is not the government's job, nor our responsibility, and in fact, I think it would be irresponsible. So that's where I stand.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. What I'm going to do at this point is, rather than ask if there are any more comments, I'm going to say that hopefully everybody's had an opportunity to have their say. We need to cut this off at this point. So, I have indicated in some earlier comments the reason that I do believe that we need to go forward, at least with the changes to Chapter 10 alcoholic beverages. I am going to make a motion, and keeping in mind this doesn't get approved tonight. It's just send it to the public comment and so forth. Just kind of gets it started. I'm going to make a motion that we go forward with the changes to the alcoholic beverages, and then we move toward the public comment section on that. I'm going to keep this separate from the farm wineries right now and just address that one specific thing. So we have a motion on the floor.
May I make a suggested amendment that we go ahead and include a prohibition against brown bagging on this? Can we do that?
I personally would oppose prohibiting brown bagging.
I understand, but I've requested that officially with David Clark, our attorney. I think if we're going to have a discussion and an open hearing. We need all the ordinance changes that we're gonna make on that ordinance.
You certainly can make.
But if nobody wants to second my amendment,
Well,
my motion to amend, that's
You
okay.
certainly make the motion to amend, so the question now is, do we have a second?
That's a good question.
Are you referring to the golf course only, or are you referring to the countywide?
No, I'm speaking, in fact, I would be willing to exempt the golf course from that no ground bagging, just like we've exempted it already today in some laws. So I would exempt the golf course from that no ground bagging. But there is no purpose. In fact, it hurts business. It hurts the sale of business. It also hurts their ability to monitor and control and manage and take care of the situations that they have come up. So that's why I'm adding that in there. But I would make an exception to the golf course for that.
I believe that would be economically disastrous, and I personally can't support that. But we do have a motion, and I guess the question is, we're not going to get so. Okay. So it fails for lack of a second. That being the case, I'd like to go ahead and call for a vote on the motion.
Could you clarify the process, supposing this motion's
Yes.
passes? What happens, what's the timeline? Can you do that for the motion?
Yes, what happens if this motion passes is that the proposed changes that we talked about tonight will be advertised, and there will be a public comment meeting to take place on that. At the end of that public comment meeting, there may be changes, there may not. It'll just all depend on, what's said at the meeting. But there will be opportunities at that point for input. Once we have the public comment meeting, at the August meeting, we would have the second reading. That would more or less finalize, as I understand it, the proposal that we're making. That would then carry over to the September meeting for final approval. So what we're voting on with this tonight is not approval per se, but to go forward with the process.
And I would amend that, the commissioners are not able to discuss matters at all outside of public meetings. And so this process is designed to allow for public input, allow for discussion within the public eye. So that's what we initiated here. You did make a motion?
I did make a motion, and I will call for a vote at this time.
Did you second that?
Seconded.
Oh, I'm sorry,
I will second.
Okay. That being the case, all in favor? Aye.
No.
Now, that brings us to the farm wineries, which we decided to look at separately because we do need more input on that. What I would suggest on that is that we table this motion. We have a special meeting after you've had an opportunity to provide input and get a more cohesive solution in place. So that being the case, I would make a motion that we table this tonight and in favor of a special call meeting in late August.
In the meantime, would you like to have those, my suggestions emailed to you, or just bring them to the meeting, or how would you like?
Well, my preference is always email.
Yeah, let's get on those quickly.
Yeah.
Let's not wait.
Oh, yeah, we want to have considered them and maybe made some changes by the time of the special meeting. Yeah.
Do you want to specify a date at all for that meeting, Charlie?
I really can't right now without
Okay.
checking my calendar.
I can't either, so that's okay.
That's why I just said late August.
All right.
Okay, so we have,
I think I seconded it, did I?
I don't know, but.
Oh, I will.
You did, man.
I did.
Okay, well then, all in favor? Aye. Okay, action on resolution approving the service agreement for the operations of Gilmer County Transportation. between the Gilmer County Board of Commissioners and North Georgia Community Action Incorporated. This is something that we do every year. It's a document that we sign to continue to provide this service for seniors, and it's a very desirable service. I believe that we should continue to improve it.
I would move that we approve it as presented.
I'll second that.
Any comments on that? All in favor? Aye. Action on appointment of member to the Gilmer County Building Authority. If anyone has any candidates, certainly we can consider those now. I would propose that we reappoint Mark Hines, as long as he's willing to do it. And if anybody else has any other names.
I've had the pleasure of being on that board with Mark, and I appreciate his work, and look forward to continuing that if we so will.
I think he's willing to serve a great time.
Then I'll make that in form of a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Action on resolution adopting the method of disposal for the fiscal year 2015 salvage list. Got a whole bunch of old voting machines. You all can have one if you like. You have to bring your own truck.
That's right. Can I make a motion that we authorize you as chairman to dispose of those in any manner you can make happen?
Yep.
Or put them in your garage.
No. So is that your motion?
I will make that motion.
Okay.
Authorize you to dispose of them at your best. Yeah.
Best possible.
Yeah.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Action on authorizing the chairman to execute all necessary documents in reference to fiscal year 2016 health aid grant from the Department of Transportation, State of Georgia, and selection of 2016 health aid road list. Now, it's 20 till 9, so for the sake of expediency, can we say Craigtown Road, Ridgeway Church Road, Bushy Head Road, and a fourth one that you may decide to propose later would be the order in which we would put this on for the grant.
Could have said it better myself.
Oh, yes. I'll make that in form of motion.
Second.
I just want to double check, Jim, that should be a sufficient list to utilize the funds we're getting.
Yes, and if it isn't, that's the reason I'd like to have
That's
the
the
option to propose another.
That's good. I'm okay.
We want to use all of it.
Right. I'm okay. You got it.
So we have a motion
In a second.
and a second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're going to table, I will make a motion that we table the action on appointments to the Keep Gilmer Beautiful Advisory Committee.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. I'll make a motion that we reject all bids on diesel fuel and what's the word I'm trying to say there? Eliminate tax. I don't know.
We'll just reject it.
Just reject the bids, okay.
And word of explanation, we're not prepared in the county to receive bulk diesel fuel. It's just simple as that. I will second the motion to reject the bids.
Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Action on replacing the AT&T as wireless carrier with Verizon. This is something that will not cost us any more money. Save us a little bit of money, but not really a significant amount. But the primary purpose in it is because the coverage area for Verizon is so much better in Gilmer County than AT&T, and we just need to get better coverage on our county phones. And I will make a motion that we go ahead and do that.
I'll second. Can I ask a question? Is that based on a state contract?
That's state pricing.
So there's no need for this.
Right.
Right.
Any comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Action on regulations on the use of alcoholic beverages during activities on the river. It's one of those situations where a few people are spoiling things for everybody else with some very, very poor behavior and a lot of trash left behind in addition. What was discussed earlier in the work session was the possibility of not so much banning alcohol, but banning coolers. Apparently this is something that's been done in other counties, other locations with a great deal of success. It would, the particular one that we're looking at would allow a rafter to, or a kayak, to take one 32-ounce bottle with them, pull off whatever they want to put in it. But no coolers.
Glass bottle?
No, plastic.
Okay. Hey, why not just limit it down to a 6-pack cooler with a zipper? That way, everything in there can be suspects to change, look, make sure there's no glass on the river, because all of a sudden you have kayakers as a whole.
Because I kind of know the business and I know the people in it.
Can you come up to the?
Yeah, I'll come up. Sorry.
Identify yourself.
Yeah. Sorry. My name is Woody Jansen. I own one of the kayak and two-rental businesses here locally. What we have done personally is we have taken kind of our own, what you're trying to fit into it. I have taken all coolers away from people other than a zipper cooler that they can actually put their, the container that they consume in there. Doesn't have to necessarily be alcohol, doesn't have to necessarily be beer, waters, kids, everybody. Everybody has to take something to drink. It's a 2 to 3 hour trip on the river. So if they have a cooler, they have a zipper, and goes back in there. Plus, I actually make them pick up one item on the river. I don't know if anybody's floated down the river lately, but if you look at it from the put into the takeout, there's hardly any trash on it. All right. For one, I've personally made. We do cleanup every year. Travis knows. He's probably been out there at one. We do cleanup every year, first week of May, we do a cleanup. We pick up from Lower Park Road all the way down to the park in LJ. So we pick up roughly 16 river miles. And we just do that. Hopefully, bring good karma. We have taken where everybody can only have a 6-pack cooler, has to have a zipper. And that's what we try to get it down to. We've had other people on the river, other companies, that they send basically a river tube down with a cooler, and it drives me crazy. It's extremely makes me mad. And I've seen people take styrofoam coolers on the river. Styrofoam, minute hits a rock, gone. It's basically yard sale. All right, so I've eliminated all that. Just personally, just stuff that I've seen, I've just slowly, hopefully helping out other things. So that's kind of what I've done personally as a company. And we do it just out of, because we feel it's right. It's not because of you guys voted on it, you guys said yay, nay, or no. Because we, as a company, have discussed it, and we talked to other people, and we feel it's right to limit to a 6-pack. That way nobody can just fully drink, for one, if they do take the alcohol, or at least if you're taking a family of 6, one person has a 6-pack of coolers, a bottle of water, and they can actually squish up and back in there and pick up one item. So that's what we have done personally as a company. I don't know what else we could really do. We tried, you know, we won't do the cooler tube, we won't, just something we won't do. And if you have one item, you're gonna drink it, quick, one bottle of water, even 32 ounce, all of a sudden, that person's gonna flip, it's gonna be in the river. It doesn't matter. One bottle, it will not stick with you, okay? If you're a kayaker and all of a sudden you have the wet exit, what we call a wet exit, well, that whatever's in that kayak, 32 ounce bottle or not, is in the river. If you have it in a zipper or a Ziploc cooler, tied in, no, eliminate. That problem is basically what we've tried to do. And then we have personally done that as a company. So I don't know what else, 32 ounce cooler or 32 ounce bottle. It's in the river too.
That's exactly the sort of input that we need. We, in the work session earlier, we're kind of calculating a little bit about the time it's going to take, because this will be the ordinance, and we've got to go through the public comment and the whole thing with it as well. So this is something that's probably, that's not going to take effect before January 1st.
That's fine. I mean, I'd like for it to take effect as quick as possible as a cooler ordinance, as a zipper ordinance. I mean, I'd like something, I would love for it to happen tomorrow, because that way we can notify the other people, well, you guys can, the other outfitter out there, and say, hey, look, here it is, brother, take it. You have to send, if you're gonna send somebody out there with a cooler, they cannot have a styrofoam cooler out there in their own separate tube, just basically, and with bottles of glass. I mean, I pulled people off the river yesterday, getting them off the river, and I said, no, look, man, this is from another company. I said, no, get off the river, you can't. I just saw what they did. They had bottles and glass. I said, no, get off. You're not going. Well, we're not with you. I said, that doesn't matter. I don't care. Get off the river. Wait right here. When you guys finish up, throw them away, get back on. And that's what I did. That was yesterday. Okay? My kids go out there in the river. I go out there in the river. Everybody is going to be probably utilizing this river or your kids. You drop a glass bottle in there, it's going to float down. It's going to break. And it's going to touch the foot. Okay? A 6-pack cooler, something small, personable, it's going to be tied on, it's not going to be gone, it's not going to create a yard sale. And that is going to eliminate a lot of trash. Last year, 2 years ago, we picked up 1,400 pounds worth of trash. Last year, we picked up 1,100 pounds worth of trash. Okay? The year before, or 3 years before that, we picked 1,600 pounds worth of trash. So it's slowly deteriorating now. Okay? We're slowly getting better. Hopefully with help and knowledge and everything else, and everybody kind of hopefully doing right, maybe they'll get to, you know, we're having just a fun time and 50 people at our little place. You know, I'm in the wrong job. No more $50. All right.
Thank you.
But yeah, just that would be the best. I would love you guys to almost enforce that like that. All right.
Thank you.
Hey, brother, that card? No.
It looks like what we thinking of doing on this is,
You asked Woody for the
as I understand it, we will take this and go out this
Dude, I got out of corporate business 10 years ago, man.
Go forward, maybe second.
I think September was a reasonable time for us to talk about implementation.
So hopefully between now and September, we'll have, like, more definitive and comprehensive. Maybe we'll have a September public comment. So,
Hey, are you guys going to discuss the parking down at Blackberry anytime soon also, or Steel at the end of Mulkey anytime soon on that? That's, all right. Let me, well, let's just touch base on that real quick too. Sorry, let me take off a moment of that, man. You guys are all I want to represent them as well. On the park, we we set up with the fire commissioner to enforce a May 15th to September 15th. All right, 3 years ago, a little girl got hurt, kind of brought it forward, okay? If parking starts back down there on those days, it's gonna get, it gets hairy, all right? So, some park down there, Darren knows more, man. Really about it. I don't want to throw anything off, really, it's kind of personal on that one. So, cool. I'd rather not. We get busy. Travis, you've seen it during June and July. We do get, you know, like today, we had, you know, probably 100 people down. All right, 40% of them kids. All right, if you got a 6 or 5 and 4-year-old running in between a car, when you got a truck or a van or something backing down there to get equipment off and get them off, you would rather have a safe line of sight all the way down versus cars coming in and out of the park. All right? If we can do it from a 9 a.m. to a 6 p.m., from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., if we can eliminate this, because after 6, that's when everybody kind of gets off work, and that's our free time. That's my free time. That's when I can let stuff off my shoulders. Okay? Yes, I golf. I don't drink. I golf because I can't ball straight when I do. So I don't drink. But I do golf. Right? But I do kayak. Okay? I do like having a beer or two when I'm kayaking. I do. All right? But if you can keep the parking down at the Blackberry and go from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Okay. Everybody gets off work. We have to be able to set our own shuttle. I don't want to stay down there until 9:30 at night. All right? And pick up people. We don't charge a ton to help people out. We're not going to. But that's my release. That's when I took my son down yesterday. We got off the river at 7. All right? He's 8 years old. That's our release. And we set up our own shuttle. All right? Everything was done already. We had everything set up. We had nothing to worry about. But if you do parking Monday through Thursday, like Travis and I were talking about, trying to figure it out what we can do, there's going to be too many people, too many cars. I don't want somebody else. I don't want somebody else to get early to Chattanooga. That happened 3 years ago. I don't want. And that's, I guess, that's really about it.
Woody, the parking lot there has been in operation, I know personally, but I've been using it for 32 or 3 years.
Yeah.
It's a more recent phenomenon to have commercial use there. And I guess my question is, if you ever go to the commissioners and say, I would like to use that, get permission, it's county property, how did that start?
No, they were trying to figure it out because the residents down there were trying to eliminate a lot of congestion. And I came up with a suggestion. All right, look, here's what you guys can do, because the residents still like to utilize the parking. Okay, everybody wants to be able to park their car. I mean, it's a commercial area, but yet it is also a public. Okay, so what they did is Jay Szymanski, they first eliminated everything but 2 parking spots. You probably remember that. That's when Jay Szymanski had that there's two places to park vehicles, and that was it. Okay. Well, what they did is they widened it up and made it bigger so you could actually pull a car in there comfortably during the off season. The off season is saying that after, from Memorial Day to Labor Day. Okay. The off season is after and before those months. Well, what they did is they went in there, put some gravel down, they put some lines down in there, and then they said, okay, it's a free for all. So then it turned into a free for all. Well, then the residents got extremely mad and said, hey, look, you know what? It's going to create congestion because then you got cars pulling down in there. There's no parking left, but you got 2 people loading up boats. So then these cars are sitting down there waiting for 2 people to leave, and then you got 4 or 5 cars backed up because they're waiting. Well, then it created congestion. Blackberry people are getting mad. the residents on the right-hand side of Mogi were getting mad. The people in the, new house, they were getting mad because the traffic was backing over there because nobody could get around. So they just eliminated it for those particular months. And that's kind of solved all that. And then they put in the hours of operation from 9, actually they go from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. or something. And I told, I can't remember his name, I mean, that was your guy, what was before you? Yeah, J.C. Sam, Mr. Samuel. But I talked to him, I said, look, if you go in, if you say from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., that way the residents can use it, they're gonna leave for work around 8 to 9:30 in the morning at the latest, and either that or retire. Then they're not gonna leave for work at all. So then it doesn't matter, and then we all want their gig. I mean, I want their job if they're retired. But from 9 to 6, after 6, they're gonna get home, they're gonna be able to utilize that parking lot. It's not gonna be full, there's an 8 and 9 parking area, and also a guy named, well, we call him, his name's John, but we call him John, he tells a story about everything. We call him Johnny, the new Johnny talks a lot. But his wife is wheelchair bound. Well, she has no way of getting down there, so we have no way, we need that very front needs to have wheelchair only. That way, nobody else can park. We need to have, if we're gonna do it right, it needs to have a wheelchair area. Right now, we got nothing down there for wheelchair. If all the parking lots are gone, or all the parking spots are gone during the off season, well, that lady, she can't go down there and wait on her husband to come off the river. She can't get out of the vehicle because it's not big enough. If we're gonna do it right, let's do it right. Right there by the guardrail, make it wheelchair accessible, put some lines in there, make it where you've got 6 to 8 people. You can park, have a wheelchair handicap area, you got a person that can get out and enjoy it. And it's a beautiful area for everybody to enjoy. And that would create a good atmosphere amongst everybody, because then you got from 9 to 6, people can use it all day. And that's how basically the main start of it is the residents were getting extremely mad because all of a sudden they created a driveway and then people were waiting. You got backing up 20 cars. It was a mess. So he said, just cut it all off, May 15th, September 15th. And I kind of came up with those dates to make it easy on them, because, I mean, it made it easy on them. I mean,
The underlying question is, how did it become primarily a commercial parking lot?
By him cutting it off and making it became so congested. It just became so congested because I mean, Travis, you get down there during the weekend. I mean, if you see somebody backing out or loading up their boat, you're gonna park and wait. All right, if there's no other parking spots left and we want to set up our own shuttle, you're gonna park and wait. You're gonna park and wait for that car to get out. Well, how are they gonna get around you? Well, the only place to park and wait is either the driveway or in the road coming into Blackberry or around in there. So that's how it became that, because it's congestion, full congestion. And you gotta look on a weekend, how many people do we have on upwards of 200 people, okay? And if you've got 50 people wanting to set up their own shuttle, the congestion that it's gonna make, that's what it costs. And that's how it became that, because it was full congestion. It was just, it turned into, I mean, it turned into a cluster, is what it turned into. So JC asked my suggestion, I told him, I said, this would be the best. You know, I'm not gonna hit anybody up for anything huge. I'm not gonna charge $1,000 for a shuttle. I just don't, that's not my thing. I came out of the corporate world. I know that's behind me a long time. That's when I graduated from Ole Miss, and that was like 18 years of that stuff. It's gone. So that's,
Do you pay anything to the county for the use of that parking lot?
for that, no, I don't. I would. I mean, that's why I guess in paying back and picking up the river and doing cleanups and stuff like that, I do pay taxes. She does assessments and all that.
It's a county property, and we can't think of any other county properties that are being utilized by commercial business that aren't being, there's no revenue.
As long as if it's a reasonable amount, I mean, I wouldn't mind
So
doing something.
we're gonna address several issues
Yeah.
over the next few months and then have some ideas to go into effect January 1.
Yeah, I wouldn't
That's
mind.
gonna be on the table.
I wouldn't mind addressing something like that, but I mean, you gotta look at it, it's a very seasonal business, very the margins. I mean, it's not a corporate business, okay? It's not corporate run, it's not. You gotta realize that, it's not like the county golf course up here, okay? It's not even close. It's not like the Park and Rec. It's not even close to being anything of that kind of institute, okay? This is totally, it's a small business, and you got 3 months. If you don't make your hay in those 3 months, your cows are starving, okay? It's the way it is. You got 3 months to make hay. You don't make it, you're done. You probably seen a couple of businesses come and go, gone, all right? It's not run properly. If people don't like it, which nobody really likes me, they all think I'm an asshole. Like that. All right, so, nobody ever likes me. Never will. I mean, I don't even like me, so, all right?
Thank you.
Cool. All right, next. Thanks. That's what, Travis doesn't like me.
Okay, citizens wishing to speak. Very
No, can I say it from here, not what, earlier today in the workshop, the county received a very good report on our audit. That's why I said it publicly. And I think when I heard the auditor say that Sandy Holden, our CFO, got all the information on time and everything like that. So I just want to acknowledge that the county got a very favorable audit this afternoon, and Ms. Holden did a good job on that. So that's, she did that absolutely.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Brian. Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to be very brief because I know we've all been here for a long time. I just want to say this, that for the entire, from 1 o'clock that we've been here, listening to everyone, I think everyone that came in here today is all about what can we do to improve things here in Gilmer County. It's on everybody's mind. We do commercial real estate. We come in here with the same idea. What can we do to improve Gilmer County? Okay? We heard about alcoholism. We heard about accidents. We heard about crime rate. And let me say, if in your county everything is centered around seasonal things, Apple Festival, for example, and after the Apple Festival is over, you have nothing else for people to do, especially the young ones, the teenagers. Well, that's how you have alcoholism. They have nothing else to do. Okay, they group up with their friends and they get into probably drinking and probably other things that they shouldn't be doing. So how about thinking, how can we create programs for your young people that's going to exist month after month and not just for the Apple Festival season? And how many people have the Apple Festival business being known? How many people here in Gilmer County can say they have a business year-round? You know, after November, so many of these shops are closed up. Okay, and I've wondered many times, so what are the children doing? Okay, so their parents is doing the Apple Festival thing, the little shops. But then after that, what happens to the children? So if we want to improve Gilmer County, we have to think in the long term, 12 months in the year. and not just for the few 6 months. Those people that can afford to have a festival business, you know, seasonal. We want to go beyond that. We want to bring business in here where people don't have to leave high school and look for business outside of Gilmer County. How do we do that? How do we bring people together for the cause of the good of all and not just for some? That's the long term for growth, okay? There's no reason why we have to be buying everything from China. I'm from another country myself, and my children fight here. In America, they're born here and they fight here for the country. My children are military captains, okay, for this country. They're born here. They're American citizens. There is no reason why we have to buy so much from another country when you have land and you have intelligent people here. So if you think in terms of starting with one city at a time, one county at a time, one state at a time, we might just see that, you know, there is so much we can do to build our country here. There is so much we can do in developing business right here. There's so many jobs we can provide for the young people right here. And that's just how I see it. In the long term, that's how we should be thinking. What brought us here for this meeting was the Stanleys. We saw them slave their whole life for what they have. Now they're ready to retire. And so we have rules and regulation. And rules and regulation is good, but it shouldn't hurt some and benefit another. They're from right here. And I can tell you the majority of the people right now that own gas station convenience store, not just here in Gilmer County, but throughout almost the whole South, are from the Middle East. And I have nothing against these people. But what I'm saying is, if you go into their store, they have beer and wine. Okay, so why is the Stanleys going through what they're going through? We had a buyer for them the second week of advertising. So while we still, after a year, still trying to sell. So we have to think about how we're helping each other. How are we going to grow? Is it our fears that's going to keep holding us back? You know? And this thing about us being Christians. Sometimes Christianity, and I'm a Christian, and we pray with everybody we meet. We don't take a job unless we're going to pray with that person, okay? But we have to sometimes ask ourselves, are we just dealing with fear and holding ourselves back? Or can we see ourselves as God's creation and work together and try to really build things for the long haul?
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Anybody else?
I've got one quick question.
Yes, sir.
I've been several meetings, and I'm just wondering if you discussed anything about putting another place who's on, maybe on the associated. Has that ever been discussed? Where are you planning on doing that?
It's an ongoing discussion with the DNR. They own property downstream of Mulkey on both sides of the river. It's not private property already.
Yeah.
I'm in an ongoing discussion with Don McCowan, who is the head of the Wildlife Resources Division. His office is in Social Circle. He's been up on site. There's 5 different proposals, and they're all being considered, and it's like watching grass grow. It's such a slow process.
There's 5 different locations being discussed.
5 different proposals, 2 locations.
Where are the locations?
One is, you know where Mark Road is, on the DNR property. Go down Mulkey in the first page, right? Goes back to a trailhead. One is a seasonal access point using on the existing administrative road on that property that would be available during the months when Mulkey Road is closed. So it's a seasonal only. The other is off Blackberry Mountain Road on the other side of the river. There's an existing DNR track, Lily parking lot, and there's a trail system that goes down to the confluence of Clear Creek and the Cartier River. And I've asked for consideration of that spot as well.
Well, I'm opposed to one off Mulkey Road completely. I mean, that's, right now, it's kind of remote back in there. People get a chance to walk in there, they hunt in there. I think it would disrupt the bicycle trail, and it would definitely disrupt the hunters and the people in there walking around and everything to have that road open. I mean,
Well,
that's just my
it's not the favorite opinion, there's not a lot of alternatives.
I know there's not a lot of alternatives.
If you have a different suggestion, I'm all.
I don't have any suggestions. I just wondered what yours was.
Yeah. My preferred location is on that Blackberry Mountain Road site on the other side of the river. It's a very short 3.1 mile shuttle from the foot end that doesn't involve 52 or any other road, any other major road. As far as I can tell, there's very few users on that property out there.
There's not all that much property in there anyway. I hate to see a road cut in there anywhere, period, really. Anyway, that's just my question.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Would anybody like to make a motion for executive session? Yeah, we still got that.
Well, I believe we go into executive session.
All in favor? Aye. Thank y'all.
Will there be action afterwards?
We do not anticipate.
Thank you,
I
Mr. Fair.
don't have the energy.
I was very tempted to say yes.
I knew you were. I knew you were.